Is it time?
It is time for us to do what we have been doing, and that time is every day.
We'll see what happens. We'll know in a very short period of time, but it looks like it could be something that will be not good. Believe me, not good.
I am a dissident.
Don't move. Move.
I'm saying no. Why you hear Palantir, 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 Palantir? It's not going to stop.
Seriously, we need to release the F-scene list.
Turns off.
I am not a church boy.
Turns off.
They're full-on vampires.
They hate our beef. They hate our beef. They hate our beef because our beef is beautiful and theirs is weak.
Not good. Believe me, not good.
Hello, dissidents. Shabbat shalom. Welcome.
Your mic's
one and
messed
all.
up.
Oh, it's messed up again? What happened?
Messed up again.
Welcome, one and all, to a Tuesday matinee edition of the Do Dissidents podcast. Keaton Weiss here with Russell Dobler once again.
Hello.
How's everybody doing? Make sure my settings are good. All right, I don't know why that happened. But yeah, thanks everybody for being here. Appreciate you all. Thanks for filing in. We got a great crowd in here to start things off today. 741 over on the YouTube side, 384 over on Rumble. What's up,
Very
guys?
nice.
You
Very
hanging out
nice.
at home? Hey, you guys all celebrating Hanukkah, taking the week off? We got a
We're
lot
all,
of
that's
big
it,
crowd
man.
in here for a Tuesday afternoon. But that's great. It's great to see you all. Help everybody.
Well, we have a
doing
lot
all
of
right.
IDF in our audience, right?
I guess so.
Yeah.
So. Maybe. I know it's Hanukkah this week. I know that. I know, people are getting ready for Christmas. Usually people, are busy running around this time of year. I know, because it's, this is my birthday week. It was my birthday yesterday. And I'm used to, during my birthday week is, it's the middle of the holidays. So, you have an extra sense of it when your birthday hits around that time. But it's great to see everybody. 8:13 now filing in. Smash that like button. Let's get an even bigger crowd in here. Today, we have a lot to get to. There's some breaking news on the healthcare front, which we're actually going to get to later in the show. We were going to do a healthcare segment on Sunday, but we ran really long. So luckily, there's an update for everybody on that story. Unfortunately, it's not a good update, but we will get to that later on in the show. So thanks, everybody, for being here.
It's not a good update? They
Well-
didn't introduce a Medicare for All bill?
No
No?
Medicare for all bill. Nothing of the sort. All right. We will jump right in, everybody. Once again, thanks for being here. You all heard the news. Of course, actually, it came through Sunday night, late Sunday night, while we were doing the show. Rob Reiner and his wife found dead in their LA home from apparent stab wounds. And later, it was found that the prime suspect now is their son, Nick. Rob Reiner's son, Nick, arrested and booked on suspicion of murder in parents' deaths. Nick Reiner, the younger son of Rob and Michelle Singer Reiner, has been arrested and booked on suspicion of murdering his parents after they were found dead Sunday in their Los Angeles area home. Los Angeles Police Chief Jim McDonnell said Sunday at a news conference the police had taken Nick Reiner into custody. In an update later in the day, police said he was being held without bail. Nick Reiner, 32, has a long history with drug addiction, which began in his teens. He told People, meaning People magazine, in an interview in 2016 that he had spent weeks sleeping rough on the streets and was in and out of rehab for addiction treatment that started when he was 15. Those experiences inspired the 2016 movie Being Charlie, which was directed by Rob Reiner, co-written by Nick Reiner, and featured actor Cary Elwes, famous for appearing, of course, in Reiner's classic The Princess Bride, as the main character's father. The plot focuses on a young man struggling with addiction who has been in and out of rehab. So here's a clip of Rob Reiner and his son, which hits different now, of course, talking about making that film. It's different now, obviously. James Woods tweets out, Rob and I remain good friends ever since we made Ghosts of Mississippi. The studio didn't think I was old enough to do the part. They also thought I was confused as to who the heroes and the villains were in that film. No, he didn't write that. But Rob fought for me. Political differences never stood in the way of our love and respect for each other. I am devastated by this terrible event. So James Woods, obviously a political opponent of Rob Reiner, found it in him to show some grace there. Ted Cruz really poured it on. Ted Cruz is apparently obsessed with The Princess Bride, which
You're kidding me.
No, it's very strange. That's apparently his favorite movie. I've known that about him for a while. Yeah. He's a strange bird. I am deeply saddened at the horrific murder of Rob Reiner and his wife. He was one of the most talented movie makers to have ever lived. From Spinal Tap to When Harry Met Sally, from A Few Good Men to my favorite movie of all time, The Princess Bride. We are weeping the loss of a comedic and storytelling master. His movies touched us deeply and spoke to our fundamental humanity. Rob Reiner was one of a kind, and he will be missed. The tragic circumstances of his murder make it all the more horrible. Heidi and I are praying for his family. Rest in peace. So, some people, for reasons we'll get into in a future segment, because Donald Trump did not show the same grace, as we'll get to in another clip. But here are, some clips that now have been surfacing of Rob Reiner saying what he thinks about the state of American politics and, of course, Donald Trump.
Utter lying buffoon. I mean, I'm going to tell you the truth. He's a fraud. He lies. He cheats people. Everything that comes out of his mouth virtually is a lie. And he's a con man. And if you look at what he's done with his career and how he's tricked people into things, it's abhorrent. I never liked George W. Bush, his policies, but I didn't hate the guy. I hate this man.
See, there you go. Yeah, George W. Bush, he was a good guy. He was a well-meaning, good guy.
Yep.
I didn't like his policies, but no, the guy who may have done 9/11, even if you don't believe that, the guy who clearly lied about a war that got 1 million people killed and really set us on a path of accelerated decline and violent devastation for the next century, which I would argue was part of the plan of the people surrounding George W. Bush, at the very least, if not W himself. But no, I mean, it was nothing personal with George W. Bush.
Yeah, the Bush era was pre-social media. But I am sure that if you can go back and find interviews that Reiner did in that period, he would have been whistling a different tune back then about George Bush, because they all did. They spoke about Bush the way they speak about Trump at the time. He was a threat to democracy, intellectually unqualified. Cheney is the real president. Danger to democracy. Doesn't care about the Constitution. Doesn't respect freedom of speech and protest rights. They were saying all that stuff about Bush, and then he got rehabilitated. It's partly the Michelle George Bush candy caper. She did a lot to rehabilitate him. But also, I mean, because he was not a Trumpist, he got redefined as a centrist.
Right, of course. And of course, here's Rob Reiner talking about how the Russians, essentially pulled off a soft coup in 2016 and electing Donald Trump. This video has been making the rounds as well.
And America, we've got a problem. We've been attacked by a foreign enemy power, and our president refuses to defend us. Donald Trump is meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin one-on-one in a closed-door meeting with no aides present and no record of what will be said. Putin's government attacked our democracy by interfering in the 2016 election to help Donald Trump become president. That is not in dispute. It has been verified by all U.S. intelligence agencies, the Republican-led Senate Intelligence Committee, and the U.S. Justice Department. Trump and his campaign's conspiracy with Russia is the subject of a federal investigation.
All right, so we get, there's a blast from the past. Remember that face? Remember Robert Mueller?
Mm-hmm.
So, look, I mean, the thing is, it's difficult to compile tweets and statements from Rob Reiner, since when Trump won a second time, Rob Reiner famously deleted his X account. So you can't even search the archive of old tweets. But he was obviously a lib's lib. He was a guy whose politics were, I would argue, extremely destructive and extremely important in ushering in Donald Trump. That's the irony that he was never able to grasp, right? He never understood why there was a Bernie to Trump crossover in 2016. In the 2020 primary, that final debate, the weird COVID debate in the silent room, when it looked like Biden was on the doorstep of victory, he famously tweeted out, I remembered this, couldn't find it because you can't find his tweets now. You'd have to find the screenshot of it, which talk about a needle in a haystack. He said, Bernie sounded like an advocate. Biden sounded like a president. He backed Hillary in 2016. He was clearly a guy with just no understanding of the moment he was living through. I think that was partly a function of the fact that he was born into Hollywood royalty, grew up a very privileged guy, just didn't understand the moment that he was living in. And so, when I watch clips of Rob Reiner talking politics, he honestly just sounds like a big baby. Russ and I have talked about this off air. We've talked about this a little bit on air. He sounds like a guy who could have been online waiting to see Pod Save for, $300 at the King's Theater in Brooklyn or wherever they were. He strikes me as a Pod Save America, MSNBC lib, because that's who he was. And as difficult as it was to stomach his political views at the time he was alive, obviously, and as difficult as it is to stomach the libs now at the No Kings rally, and even going back 10 years to the Bernie versus HRC war of 2016. When you spend time interpersonally with these libs, I've said this in the past, as frustrating as it is to talk with them, it's really difficult to hate them because they just come off as children. He just sounds like a big baby when he talks politics. I don't think Rob Reiner was a bad person with malice in his heart. I think he was a very sheltered, privileged guy whose life experience led him to have a complete misunderstanding about the sort of populist fork in the road that we came to in 2016, and he was never able to gain his footing. And so while it's weird because you look at a guy like that and you say, what a terrible political legacy of that archetype, that lib archetype. But personally, I never hated Rob Reiner. And you could see even in the interview, he always came off as kind of funny and down to earth. He always had this sort of everyman's way of speaking. So he was one of these guys, like, I never hate, and he never had the vitriol in his heart. Like, what was the name who totally disappeared now? Milano. Remember her with the
Milano,
right? He was never on the front lines of saying you're a sexist if you criticize Hillary Clinton. I'm sure he said something to that effect before about Trump and the Republicans, but I don't remember him spewing that kind of shit in the Bernie primaries. So yeah, I mean, he is emblematic of a certain type that sort of blindly ushered in Trump while thinking he had the antidote. He was actually part of what brought Trump to power.
Well, I think in a lot of respects, and it is very ironic that he played the liberal meathead new left avatar on All in the Family, because that is very much his life trajectory and the politics he ended up having. In spite of having grown up Hollywood royalty, or maybe because of it, his politics are very much an encapsulation of his generation. And it's a generation that was in many ways psyoped into defining leftism by social justice issues and understanding their project as being compatible with antipathy to communism, socialism, and in his day, the USSR, right? People like Gloria Steinem were recruited by the CIA. And it's a very distinct worldview, right? Like, yeah, we believe in America. We're rocking in the USA. We just think everyone should be able to sit at the same lunch counter.
Exactly.
Da, 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 da. And you know what? We don't want to live in no authoritarian regime.
Right.
So becoming late in life, this cold warrior fit very easily with the way his generation of activists were steered by the Congress for Cultural Freedom and other CIA ops to understand leftism within a very narrowly defined identitarian range. But another thing that's interesting to ponder when you see that Ted Cruz is a fan, you say, how could that be? Another way that he is a product of his generation is as political as he was in his public pronouncements. His films are not. His films are not. He didn't make these ranting liberal screeds as movies. He made movies. He made you could argue that A Few Good Men is pretty pro-military.
Yeah,
right.
Of course. Well, that's the another guy with the same exact politics is Aaron Sorkin, right?
Right.
Who wrote A Few Good Men. Yeah, makes sense. It was a perfect fit.
Right.
As a filmmaker, it's funny because he did have an impressive resume, an impressive run of films.
It was very good, man. I mean, he did what a director should do. I mean, artistically. I've having driven a horse and carriage and directed, naturally I fused the two. It's like a horse, man. Like, horses have personality. If you drive them wrong, they'll throw you. They'll go berserk. You won't be able to control them. Like, you have to drive the horse the way it wants to be driven. That's how you have to approach a script as a director. Like, you can't impose something on a script that the script doesn't want or doesn't support. And it seems like that's what he did. Like, whatever material was in front of him, he did a director's job. He served the material. You don't see the Rob Reiner ranting about Donald Trump in his work.
Well, he was not an auteur. He was not a writer director, and as a visual director, he didn't really have much of a style. I mean, that's what keeps him out of like the pantheon of the all-time greats.
That's why you never think of him.
That's why you never think of him that way. It was almost like Ron Howard, although I think his movies are actually a lot better on balance than Ron Howard.
I would agree. Yeah.
But it's funny. I was just watching an interview of him because a bunch of these clips surface, and he said, and this is very indicative of what we're talking about in terms of what kind of filmmaker he was. He said the shot that always bothered him most in his filmography was a shot in The Princess Bride where Robin Wright is riding a horse through this sun-drenched landscape. And so the sun is, the camera's kind of shooting into the sun. And as the camera pans, he said you could see a flare into the camera. When you shine a lens into the lens, a little flare, right? The little bubbles or whatever. And he said that always bothered me because it reminded the audience that this was being filmed, that this was being captured. He said, I never wanted the audience to notice the camera. I never wanted the audience to notice me, which is not the work of an auteur.
Right.
Like, you watch a movie like One Battle After Another, you notice the camera a lot because it's extremely artistically done. So you notice the camera in a good way when you're watching a film like that. He was not a writer-director. He's not an auteur. He wanted to stay out of the way. He was a true storyteller in that sense. He saw his job as, I'm going to deliver the story, whatever it is. And that's part of why he was very versatile. That's why he could do a thriller like Misery. He could do an absurdist mockumentary like Spinal Tap. Pardon me. He had tremendous range, and then he could do a rom-com like When Harry Met Sally, which for what it is, it's a pretty much a perfect genre movie. He could do all that very well because it's ironic, as overbearing as he was politically, he was the opposite of that as a filmmaker. He disappeared.
And that's really, it makes sense that he came up in Hollywood in that era because, that's going back to the old studio system directors who it's the Barton Fink thing. But Wallace Beery wrestling picture. What do you need, a roadmap? And, this week you're doing the boxing movie. They were being ironical with making it a wrestling genre. Next week you're doing a Western. Next week you're doing a costume drama. Those were the old directors, and it seems like that's what he absorbed. That's what a director does. You direct to the project. You don't make the project about the director.
Exactly. All right, so we'll head right into part B of this. So, of course, we are talking now about the reaction to the tragic and grisly and horrible murder of Rob Reiner, apparently and allegedly at the hands of his son, Nick. So here's Andrew Kolvitz, Shabbat Shalom, from TP USA. Rob Reiner responded with grace and compassion to Charlie's assassination. This video makes it all the more painful to hear of he and his wife's tragic end. May God be close to the brokenhearted in this terrible story. Of course, that is attached to this tweet here. Rob Reiner was extremely compassionate about Charlie Kirk. Let's hear that.
About the murder of Charlie Kirk. What was your immediate gut reaction to it?
Well, horror, absolute horror. And I unfortunately saw the video of it, and it's beyond belief what happened to him, and that should never happen to anybody. I don't care what your political beliefs are. That's not acceptable. That's not a solution to solving problems. And I felt like what his wife said at the service, that the memorial they had, was exactly right. And totally, I believe, I'm Jewish, but I believe in the teachings of Jesus, and I believe in doing to others, and I believe in forgiveness. And what she said to me was beautiful and absolutely, she forgave his assassin, and I think that is admirable.
So obviously the TPUSA guy liked that. And there was generally not an outpouring of rage about Rob Reiner's politics on the night of his murder. I guess the president had other things on his mind that night, because we'll get to that in a moment. But this is what makes this so funny, even though obviously the backdrop of the story is anything but funny. But I was texting Russell all day yesterday. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. It was just unbelievable. So you have Brett Weinstein come out at 1 o'clock in the morning on the night that this happened. Notice that the American right is not celebrating Rob Reiner's murder. I see post after post honoring his remarkable contribution to our culture, despite his strident embrace of progressive lunacy in his later years. This is America displaying our common humanity. May his memory and his remarkable body of work be a blessing to us all. He didn't express progressive lunacy. He expressed centrist lunacy, in my opinion. He expressed establishment warmongering lunacy. But
I mean, the man who organized Rescue the Republic is in no position to talk about anyone's ideological lunacy.
Yeah, lunacy.
The man who put Jordan Two-Face and Russell Tidy Whitey's brand on a stage together to pray for America.
To lead a prayer.
Is in no position to talk
about who's a lunatic and who's not. That is a good point. Autism Capital, another very pro-Trump account, says it's very telling that Rob Reiner was one of the biggest TDS victims around, and yet the vast majority of the right-leaning accounts on X are offering their genuine condolences and saying this is horrible and that they would never wish this on anyone. That's assuming what he meant. Mm-hmm. There is a display of class. A display of class. Remember that, folks. Mm-hmm. Jack Posobiec chimes in. You won't see people on the right celebrating. Again, this is in the dead of night, December 14th, the night it happened. You won't see people on the right celebrating the horrific murder of Rob Reiner and his wife compared to the left's reaction to Charlie Kirk's murder. Now, you talk about takes that you should have been able to tell would age like milk, right? Did they really think that these were going to look good when Donald Trump chimed in? Did they really think that? Because, wow. Donald Trump, the next morning, fires off this banger. A very sad thing happened last night in Hollywood. Rob Reiner, a tortured and struggling but once very talented movie director and comedy star, has passed away together with his wife, Michelle, reportedly due to the anger he caused others through his massive, unyielding, and incurable affliction with a mind-crippling disease known as Trump derangement syndrome, sometimes referred to as TDS. He was known to have driven people crazy by his raging obsession of President Donald J. Trump, with his obvious paranoia reaching new heights as the Trump administration surpassed goals and expectations of greatness, and with the golden age of America upon us, perhaps like never before. May Rob and Michelle rest in peace. So he says he died due to the anger he caused others with his Trump derangement syndrome. Ouch. Ouch. So Brett Weinstein has to go back on Twitter that afternoon. President Trump had not posted when I wrote this. Yes, I'm troubled by it, as are many others. Autism Capital, then they have to eat it. They say rare Trump L. Really?
Oh,
rare
yeah,
Trump
it's
L.
very
Have you checked
rare.
the polls recently?
Yes.
It's not so rare. Rare Trump L seems cruel and unnecessary. Yeah, no shit.
He's catching up.
Even the misfit patriot, even the misfit PAY triot says, rest in peace, meathead. That sucks. Tough break. But he can't help but say, ouch. You know what? That was an insensitive take, Mr. President.
All right, guys, let's be real here. This is a little much. This is
it's a little much.
Not great.
Not great. It's not great. Believe me, not great.
So Trump came out and made a tweet after Rob Reiner was murdered with his wife by his son. And while everything in here is 100% true, it's so fucking insensitive. Now, if you haven't heard,
well, is it true? Really? Like that was the son's motive?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's not true.
The son is MAGA?
Yeah, it's not true that the son is MAGA and that the son was driven mad by TDS. No, that's not true. We have no reports to confirm that. So then you have, the MAGA influencer accounts who are, more contemptible in my mind than the people who just come out and will like defend this outright.
Right.
People who will like test the waters, right? The people who just post a neutral reaction to see what the comment section look like, and then they'll craft their take according to that.
Yep.
Like those are the most cowardly. So here's Johnny MAGA, OMG, ...
Yeah, that could mean anything.
That could mean anything. That could mean, oh my God, how hilarious and great, or oh my God, what an asshole, right? That could mean anything.
Yep.
But the comments here, I love Trump, but this is not right. Reiner's son was a drug addict. This has nothing to do with politics. Reiner had TDS, yes, but he showed compassion to Erica Kirk and was a kind man. Young MAGA says that one's a little much even for me. He just got stabbed to death. Even if you think Rob would have celebrated Trump's death, we are better than that. Really? You are better than that? I don't know. I don't know about that.
Yeah, and I don't think he would have done that either.
I don't think so either. Sage Steele says this tweet is so disappointing and so unnecessary. It's comments like this that take away from the countless great things real Donald Trump does for America. What countless? Countless? You could name more than two. You could. I think you could fit them on. I think you can fit them on two hands. I think even you could fit them on two hands. I don't know about countless great things. So here's Natalie Morris. She's the co-host of Redacted. It really is. The right demanded people lose their jobs over saying things like this about Charlie Kirk. It's no different. That's right. That's right. Coming from the woman whose co-host / husband was happy to start a civil war over Charlie Kirk until he realized they could make even more money trying to find out what the actual truth is. So they decided, all right, I guess we'll do that. I guess we'll call off the civil war. The point is, not a lib by any stretch of the imagination. So here's Benny Johnson. New President Trump reacts to the murder of Rob Reiner and his wife Michelle last night in their LA home. He quotes the tweet. That's it. No commentary. No take. Vince Langman. President Trump responded to the death of Rob Reiner. Thoughts? So I did pretty well with this one. People like this one. My thoughts are, says Keaton Weiss, my thoughts are you're a massive pussy for not giving your opinion until you poll your audience to find out what you ought to say. Yeah, to me, like that's the lowest. That's the lowest. Yeah. What do you guys think? Well, apparently the results came in and he, I don't know, ran the statistics and the responses through whatever spreadsheet he has, whatever algorithm he's cooked up to maximize his revenue, or maybe the 50 bots who run his account in Nigeria somewhere. God knows who this guy is. PSA, if you had no problem with 2 phony impeachments, 94 phony indictments, phony lawsuits, the phony Russian collusion hoax, 2 assassination attempts, then I don't give a flying fuck if Trump hurt your little feelings with a mean post about Rob Reiner today. So see, he puts out the feelers, right? He puts out the feelers in that morning, and by that evening, he has determined this is the take he wants to push. Now, here is Brylan Hollyhand. This guy got a lot of press after Charlie Kirk was killed. This is the new phase, the Juan Guaido of TV USA. Right. They call this kid, right? That's what I call this kid. Here he is. Here he is pushing back on Donald Trump's unhinged take.
No, this is not the way. We can't. No, just no. This is not the way. We can't with one hand call out the left when they laugh at and celebrate Charlie Kirk's assassination just a few weeks ago, but on the other hand, normalize, condone, and tell people to just get a sense of humor when the president makes commentary like this. The situation was tragic. A drug-addicted son killed his mother and father. Did that father have horrible political opinions that were dead wrong? Yes. Did that father make comments about Trump that were insensitive and wrong? Absolutely. Is this a moment to kick them while they're down? Absolutely not. We know better than anybody what political violence is like. They tried to kill Trump twice, and they killed Charlie Kirk. This should be a moment of unity, a moment of our nation coming together to mourn. Not a moment to make light of a situation, not a moment to kick them down, certainly not a moment to make the situation political in the slightest. We can't appear to be morally superior when the left does it to us, but the second the roles are reversed and they're down, we do not kick them. We do not act like the left. That is not going to be our party. These commentary, it's frankly disgusting.
Okay, so not a bad take from the Juan Guaido of TPUSA over here. But you know what's really funny is that Jack Posobiec, who has been very, very soft on TPUSA these last 3 months, right? He hasn't defriended Candace Owens publicly. He's been in the Kumbaya tent because he obviously was very close to Charlie and probably has, I don't want to say official financial ties to the organization, but he would appear on Charlie Kirk's show a lot. So he has not felt the need to chime in and pick a fight with anyone at TPUSA until apparently now. Apparently this was the thing that set him off. He comments back, he claps back, the left wants us all dead. We aren't going back to the Paul Ryan apology first GOP. Golly G isn't going to save us. So remember how the night of Rob Reiner's murder, he said, notice you won't see anybody on the right making light of this. So then Trump does make light of it, and this kid says, no, that's wrong. He has to jump in, and he didn't stop there. Look, he's retweeting this now. Rob Reiner was one of the chief orchestrators of the Russian collusion hoax, blah, 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 right? He's posting this meme, and then Trump posted a meme tweet with the gif of the wine. So many people telling on themselves for crying over a mean Trump tweet. Show me on the doll where Trump's mean tweet hurt you. Hurry, apologize to the left before anyone calls us mean. Imagine thinking like this in a post-Charlie Kirk world. Imagine reading this the day after you read Jack Posobiec say no one on the right is going to be such a scumbag as to make light of this murder and still taking Jack Posobiec seriously as an honest actor. Imagine that. That's what I would like people to imagine. Imagine reading this guy as a serious person. He literally the night before said, no one's going to have a bad word to say about Rob Reiner. Then the God Emperor King says what he says about Rob Reiner, and now he's doing damage control to the point of going out of his way to pick a fight with that Bryland kid who, to my knowledge, he had never done. But I guess that's what set him off.
Well, this is all bought and paid for. This is consistent with the messaging they're trying to put out now. J.D. Vance, he just at a TPUSA event said, we're not going to worry about the left doing it to us because they're going to do it to us anyway. So, just neutralizing the idea. No, we could just strip your freedoms. The argument that the left is going to turn ice on you, that doesn't matter. They would do that anyway. It would be hard for them to do that if you hadn't already built it. But okay, fine. This is how in lockstep all of this is. This is the Y Files just did a video about psyops, and there's like this chart that was developed by a military intelligence guy, like 8 points that you look at to see if something is a psyop.
Right.
Most of our political discourse is a psyop. Like if you apply that standard, it's mostly a psyop. It's all designed to get us arguing about things like this. That's part of why Trump, if your interest is to keep the peasants having a food fight, Trump is a gift. It's a gift because he constantly puts stuff like that out. And, everybody makes the Jack Posobiecs and everybody else, they make their loot off of it. Everybody's very happy except, the people.
That's right. That's right. So now Jack Posobiec is digging up old Charlie Kirk tweets in order to defend the God Emperor Donald Trump. Make mean tweets, not wars. Charlie got it. Okay, well, the problem is, and this goes to a larger point, which we'll get to toward the end of the segment here, Donald Trump is now doing both mean tweets and wars, right? Like, it'd be one thing if you were doing mean tweets and stopping wars. Then people could maybe stomach the mean tweets. But I don't know if you've heard the news out of Venezuela. It's looking like we're about to start a war. So that is just, wrong on its premise. Jack Posobiec posts, what Trump posted was a dire warning about making TDS your entire life. Responding to
that's
this.
What it was.
Yeah. I'm not going to participate in the fake outrage at Trump for his response to Rob Reiner, blah, blah, blah. Well, a response to this was from Pedro Gonzalez. Actually, Trump just clarified that what he meant is he's glad Rob Reiner is dead, which is what you people said is never okay to do when Charlie Kirk was killed. So let's take a look at Donald Trump asked about his unhinged Truth Social post.
Republicans have denounced your statement on Truth Social after the murder of Rob Reiner. Do you stand by that post?
Well, I wasn't a fan of his at all. He was a deranged person as far as Trump is concerned. He said,
a deranged person as far as Trump is concerned. I mean, it goes without saying at this point, but that is literally textbook narcissism to frame everything in terms of yourself, right? He was a deranged person in terms of Trump.
I mean, given that this, not to take away from the tragic dimensions of this, but this is a relatively trivial thing relative to a lot of other things that Trump has done.
Right.
But this is something that really gives a lot of credibility to his niece. That's his niece, right? Who said he's the only person she's ever known who didn't have a single redeeming quality.
Right. Right. Yeah. I don't know if I know somebody in his orbit said that. I don't know who it was, but I remember what quote you're talking about.
I'm not a fan of his at all. He was a deranged person as far as Trump is concerned. He said he knew it was false. In fact, it's the exact opposite, that I was a friend of Russia, controlled by Russia. It was the Russia hoax. He was one of the people behind it. I think he hurt himself in career-wise. He became like a deranged person, Trump derangement syndrome. So I was not a fan of Rob Reiner at all in any way, shape, or form. I thought he was very bad for our country. Yeah.
Blue slips, Mr. President. Leader Thune doesn't.
So there you go. Not backing off, doubling down, as he's known to do.
As always, yes.
So Evan Kilgore, MAGA guy, responds, can we just be honest for 5 seconds and say it was extremely disrespectful and distasteful? How can we pretend to be upset when the left celebrated Charlie Kirk's death and now say this? Jack, meaning Jack Posobiec, it's okay to say Trump said something stupid. So here's one other chud. I mean, this could go on for, I could be here all day, folks. We won't, but it was just amazing, an amazing 12 hours on X. This guy says, again, midnight, the night of the murder, I don't believe people who disagree with my politics deserve to die. Rob Reiner has never harmed me or my family. He exercised his freedom of speech to say things I strongly disagree with, and we did not share a common worldview. But nobody deserves to be murdered by their son in their own home. And then, 15 hours later, he quotes Trump, I was not a fan of Rob Reiner at all, but my condolences. I'm perfectly fine with that. No one expects him to cry a river for Rob Reiner after all the bile he's spewed over the years. This is Trump doing his best to remain cordial. Oh, that's that's Trump doing his best to remain cordial. There's a lot of bad blood here, and it's hard to blame him. Yeah. Here's Anthony Constantino, apparently a candidate for New York's 21st district. President Trump's statement on Rob Reiner is fine, accurate, and quite brilliant. Mr. Reiner spent the last 8 years trying to imprison blah, 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 blah. Yeah. When you're the president, people have strong opinions about you, right? Yeah. Whether they're well-founded or not, that kind of comes with the territory. This is my favorite. Though. Mark Lobliner says Trump had a chance to show that we can all mourn together regardless of politics. He shit the bed on this one. That was at 11:15 yesterday, December 15th. And then when 24 hours later, a little bit after reading comments, so this guy just admits that he's cucked by his audience. After reading comments and seeing what Rob Reiner said about Trump, I retract this, meaning the previous statement that Trump had shit the bed. The days of pretending to care about people who hate us are over. Democrats want every single person not fully in their cult to die. Yeah, right. And they will celebrate death, blah, blah, blah. Look what he says. They proved it with Charlie, and they'll continue to do it. This is a civil war, essentially. Okay, so who wants a civil war? Who are the people who want a civil war? And this guy goes from saying, you know what, he shit the bed on this, to this. Just admitting cuck to his audience. So here's Evan Kilgore again. Con Inc. is now telling us that it's actually a good thing President Trump is mocking a man who was stabbed to death. Bro, it's just embarrassing and cult-like at this point. Send in the PR guys to convince everyone it's funny to mock a murdered man. No thanks. MAGA is dead. I've said this before. I will say this again. I say this not out of malice because it is relevant. This is a cult at this point of sexual, romantic love and attraction to Donald Trump. That is what this is. These are people who want to be dominated by a male figure who they love and who they feel loves them back. That's what this is about. That's why there's nothing he could do. That's why there's nothing he could do that will take them out of the cult. It's also why, despite being such anti-woke culture war crusaders, Ron DeSantis just wasn't going to do it for him. Ron DeSantis' campaign was a big failure to launch because even though he delivers on all of the culture war policy in ways that Trump hadn't at that point, Ron DeSantis is just not an alpha. Ron DeSantis just doesn't have that thing. Ron DeSantis is not going to choke you while he fucks you the way Donald Trump will. And that is clearly what these people are looking for. And I'm not saying that with any judgment. You know, people should be who they are, and who they are is fine. What's not fine is expressing it in this way, right? Just find some comfort with who you are and be who you are, and then you won't have to do any of this shit, right? You won't have to attach yourself to Donald Trump as a substitute for some, alpha masculinity that's not really there, and that deep down is not really there, because that is clearly what this is at this point. But the normies aren't buying it. Here they are on Fox News with their ties. Ed Krasenstein. It was amazing to watch the entire panel on Fox News absolutely condemn Donald Trump over his comments on Rob Reiner's death. We'll watch a minute of this.
Being killed in their home in Los Angeles. You have interviewed Rob Reiner before.
Yeah, and I got to know him a little bit, and he, tremendously successful movie actor, director, son of the comedy legend Carl Reiner, and yet there was an everyman quality about him. He hung out at the same Santa Monica restaurants that everybody else did, and he was a mensch, and he spoke out and denounced the murder of Charlie Kirk and had very gracious things to say about his widow, Erica. Now, there's no secret. I sparred with him about this on the air in the first term that Rob Reiner was a very liberal Democrat who had very strong criticism of President Trump. And yet, I have to say that for the President of the United States to take this family tragedy in which both Reiner and his wife were killed and say that it's because of Trump derangement syndrome, I thought was well beneath him and beneath the office. And I think it would have been better if the president had made no comment.
I mean,
that's where you're wrong.
Yeah, that's where you're wrong. It's not beneath him. It's beneath the office, I guess. Although it's not really beneath the office.
Not
either.
really.
No.
Not really.
Not really. Yeah, not really. It is. It is
mass murderer in chief.
Yeah, exactly. It is beneath the centrist boomer ideal of what the office ought to be, but it's not really beneath the office. It's beneath Mike Lawler though, because Mike Lawler is running in a swing district next year, and he's likely to lose. So he puts out this statement is wrong, regardless of one's political views. No one should be subjected to violence, let alone at the hands of their own son. It's a horrible tragedy that should engender sympathy and compassion from everyone in our country, period. You know who didn't have the guts to cross daddy on this? Speaking to my theory, Mike Johnson. Mike Johnson, who people have suggested gives off certain vibes, if you will. Here he is saying, I don't do ongoing commentary about everything that's said by everybody in government every day. Here he is dodging it.
Mr. Speaker, do you condemn Trump's post about Rob Reiner?
What are your thoughts about what President Trump said about Rob Reiner at his press conference today?
I don't do ongoing commentary about everything that's said by everybody in government every day.
We are the President of the United States.
We're trying to bring down healthcare costs for the American people.
Oh, you are.
All right, that's the punchline.
More on that in another segment, folks. More on that. Trisha Hope, national delegate from Texas. Where did this guy I voted for disappear to? This is when Trump found out that Ruth Bader Ginsburg died, and he said, that's a sad thing. So sad that they rushed to push through Amy Pancakes on the way out the door. But that she misses that guy. Her followers miss that guy too. Sergeant Mimi says, I think they kidnapped him and replaced him with an actor wearing a mask. Yeah, no, this is so unlike him, so unpredictable that he would trash Rob Reiner after he got his throat slit by his own son. This is not the Trump I voted for. Trisha Hope says, it sure feels like a different guy. So Sagar noticed that, this seemed to be a step too far, a bridge too far for a lot of people who were, normally able to, at least accommodate, indulge, stomach, tolerate, or at least look the other way to comments like this. He says Trump's Reiner comment broke through the normie firewall for reasons I don't fully understand. but it's a signal that his specter of untouchability is beginning to fall apart. And so I replied, it broke the normie firewall because his agenda has been exposed as an oligarchic scam.
Yep.
People were willing to put up with his antics as long as they felt he was disrupting the establishment at their behest and for their benefit. But when he sells the country out to Israel, covers up the Epstein files, doubles people's healthcare premiums, and insists that affordability is a hoax, people are a lot less inclined to look past what an insufferable asshole he is. And so that's my opinion from my point of view, coming at it from my political standpoint, which is to the left of Donald Trump and certainly to the left of Nick Fuentes. But here's Nick Fuentes making essentially the same point that, hey, if you're going to betray people and be an asshole, that's a bridge too far. All of a sudden, you're just an asshole.
For a moment that we are in a war, someone gets murdered by their son. It's a horrific tragedy. This is a horrible story. And nobody deserves that. I don't care what their politics are, what they said on the internet or on television. Nobody deserves to be murdered, stabbed to death with their wife by their own son, who they tried to help, and their best friend discovers the corpses. It's despicable. And it's despicable to make fun of that. And I do think that, look, somebody like George Bush passes away of old age at the very end, and you talk about his political legacy, that's one thing. Some guy, some producer, some civilian dies at the hands of his kid. It's such a grisly situation. It is objectively awful to make fun of that. Now, if Trump were actually doing what he promised to do, you could overlook the fact that he's a douchebag.
Exactly.
You could overlook the fact that he's vain, that he's a narcissist, that he's tactical but not strategic. You could overlook all these things if he was bringing home the goods. That was kind of the deal in 2016. You said, we don't love everything about Trump, but you know what? We're willing to accommodate. It's an acquired taste, but it's okay because he's doing all these other things. Well, what's actually the pitch now? We get nothing. We get no concessions. There are no deportations. We haven't ended one of the wars. We haven't remade the federal bureaucracy. And then he's a dick on top of it. Then it's all about his vanity and his own self-aggrandizement on top of it. What is the redeeming quality now?
Exactly. It's a different version of what I said, because obviously he's coming from a different political point of view on many issues, at least. But yeah, that's it. That's why this broke through in a way that, Trump offense after offense after offense never really did, right? Mm-hmm. Because in the past, when he tweeted something like this, yes, there were people who were outraged about it. There were people like us who would be like, yeah, that's the kind of asshole he is. The president is a job for vicious, murderous assholes. Like, what are you going to do? Is this worse than starting a war in Iraq that kills 1 million people based on a lie? No, not really. It's just an ugly face on an ugly job. Right, managing an ugly empire. But for a lot of people, he was bringing this very offensive Rodney Dangerfield act to a slobs versus slobs war, in which he was on the side of the slobs, going in there as a bull in the china shop and overturning the establishment apple cart. Now he's siding with the snobs. Right now, he's very clearly not on the side of the slobs anymore. So if you side with the snobs and you act like a slob, at that point, you're just a slob. You're just an insufferable asshole. And that's why this broke the dam the way none of these other things ever did.
What was it? There were smart people in America. No, there aren't.
Yeah, no, there aren't. Right. We have talented people here, right, that could use jobs that you're going to give to the H-1B visa. No, we don't. No, we don't. No, you don't. Like, if you're doing that kind of shit, and, the whole laundry list of things I ran off in my written post there, then this shit is just, this is just the rantings of a bitter asshole. Right. There is no upside. Right. There's no redeeming quality to it at this point. Right. That's why I think this broke the dam in ways that all those other things didn't, including the first big one, which is I like people who aren't captured. Right? Why did people not care about that? They didn't care about that because John McCain advocated for the Iraq war. John McCain was a warmongering neocon who, that wasn't a nice thing to say about him, but who's really worse, McCain or Trump? Who has more blood on their hands? John McCain or at that time Donald Trump, who was just a real estate scumbag from New York. Well, now, as you're overseeing a genocide and as you're warmongering with Venezuela and as you're shredding the First Amendment and you're letting the Epstein clients walk, now you have all that baggage that you bring to comments like this. So now comments like this hit a lot harder because on top of all that stuff, now you're going to act like a scumbag. At that point, people are like, no, I'm out.
It was pretty clear, and this is something we were saying from day one. I think we've been vindicated on this. It was the source of some consternation. We were first saying it. What did you think he was going to do? Like, it was always very obvious that once the rubber hit the road and his agenda went into action, not only was it not going to improve anyone's life, it was going to make people's lives substantially worse.
Yes.
You know, Bannon kind of sent up a warning flare about Medicaid, about the fact that a lot of MAGA is on Medicaid, and they just went ahead and killed the ACA subsidies, which now you're getting even further into MAGA voters because very often people who are really impoverished, they don't vote.
Right.
Now you're really getting into the class of people who vote, the people who can afford health insurance and maintain it, but need those subsidies.
Right.
You're going to double their health insurance. What are people getting out of this? The torture porn of seeing immigrants beat up. That's it. That's all you have to offer them. You know, you gotta be pretty rich to think like that in the first place, to feel like that's enough for you. In terms of people not wanting to let it go, you know, a lot of these people, it's just the grift. I mean, I would say over 90% of commentators that you're going to see on social media are grifters. They're just getting paid to reinforce a psyop that they've been fed is the psyop du jour. This is the message we want out there today. In terms of like just normal people, they're broken, man. They're mentally broken. They're emotionally broken. That's how they want you. That's how they want you. And the job of people like Jack Posobiec is to distract you from how shitty your situation is, to give you something to cheer for, to give you some reason to feel like you're strong because you're part of a group that doesn't really exist more than ever before in history, because now it's all here, man. You're not even going to a rally. You're not even, you don't even get to goose step down the middle of the town square. You know, now the goose stepping is all here. And that's what you have to settle for. It's sad. It's sad. I don't really see a way out of it other than to completely collapse it and remake it, which I think will happen because it's not sustainable. It's not sustainable. A culture where freaking half the kids are on psychological medication for their anxiety, for their stress, for their depression, where they're aging at a more advanced rate, they're getting cancer at a more advanced rate. Like, does that look like a sustainable trajectory to you? Does that look like a healthy society to you? The collapse will come. Nobody can tell you what day. Nobody can tell you what year. It's gonna come.
Well, it has come.
And I mean,
would say.
the real. I mean, it's happening. It's you know, Rome wasn't built in a day. It also didn't fall in a day. Right. Like, we're in the fall, and that's going to be horrific, man. You know, I mean, that's going to be terrible, but it's going to be the only thing that will allow the culture to reset, to really open up the conversation. Like, hey, do we want this? What do we do about these microplastics? What do we do? Do we get rid of plastic? Like, you need that kind of a total reset of the entire system where you're starting over again.
All right. Why don't we take some super chats and rumble rants here? Before we do, we are at 2572 in the YouTube chat.
In the year 2525.
And we are at 678 likes. Just made it. All right. You want to take some super chats?
The show. Rock me, Amadeus. I post a $2 thank you of my poem last video. Thank you, man.
Thank you.
Rock McDonald, 23. A lot of separating the art from the artist lately. Woody Allen, definitely. Rob Reiner, didn't agree with his politics, but he was my favorite director. Yeah, man. My take on art and artists is it's up to the person. Like,
Right.
if you are so horrified by a person's biography that you can't appreciate their work, I won't criticize you for that. But I think you should leave people alone if they don't feel that way. Like, don't by the same token, don't go tell somebody you're listening to his music or
Right,
her
right, right.
music. Like let people make that decision for themselves. Willie Bragg TV, happy holidays to Keaton and Russell from Due Dissidents, and happy birthday to you, Keaton.
Thank you, Willie. Appreciate it.
Yeah, what'd you do yesterday? You went to Chili's?
No, we didn't go to Chili's. We went to a
Bennigan's?
Went to a real Mexican place. Yeah.
Did you really? You went to a
Yeah.
Mexican place? Yeah.
Mhm. Oh, I thought you saw the pictures.
No.
Oh, okay.
No, how was it?
They put a sombrero on me because my kids.
Did they really?
Well, my kids leaked to them that it was my birthday because at the end of the dinner, the waitress comes by and they say, you want any dessert? And so Beckett asks, she says, "No, thanks. It's Daddy's birthday. We got a cake at home." And then they're like, "Oh, it's your birthday, huh?" And so then they come over and they sing, and they gave me a shot of tequila because they knew that I was going to have cake at home.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So it was good?
It was good.
Yeah.
It was good.
Food was good?
It was good. It was
Yeah.
good. I took one of my favorite pictures actually with my little guy. I usually don't show. I don't like my kids to appear in person on the show, but I'll show you a picture of my youngest. Came out really good. Yeah, he really hammed it up for that photo. That was good. That's one of my favorite photos of him. That's little Augie. Yeah, but no, it was fun.
All right. Kuznetsky Bassane, Yahoo, do this. Thank you. Yahoo. Sphincter Knucklebuster, Luigi, we stand, united we fall. Luigi didn't do nothing, I will remind you. Zandor Vorkov. What's strange about the libs of Reiner's age is a lot of them accept that the CIA was behind JFK, yet fall in line with the most transparently repugnant deep state goals. Yeah, man. I mean, at this point, their brains are like made out of chocolate pudding. Like, they've been propagandized for so long, they just wouldn't even know how to think outside of that cage. That's my read. Sparky, instead of TDS Rob Reiner, I prefer to remember him as the guy who directed and acted in This Is Spinal Tap. Turn RIP up to 11. Trump missed an opportunity to show grace or remain silent. Shameful. Yeah, it's the wheels are really coming off, but that's what happens with narcissists. Like, they're not able to maintain self-control for very long, and very often the mask comes off when they get what they want. Right? Because they're just, they don't even have that motive to keep it in check.
Right.
GG 14Y, Nation piece about Chomsky Epstein, worth reading. They have good stuff in there once in a while. Sparky, I think the true personality of Rob Reiner was probably like the cameo appearance he made as a mild-mannered radio host interviewing John Travolta in Primary Colors. I remember he had a cameo on that. Bonzo Kilborn, happy Tuesday, mofos. Director should be out of way. What do you mean by that?
Happy. Well, who should be? Oh, out of way. You mean out of way of the story? Is that what you're talking about?
Oh, right. Okay, because we had that whole combo, right?
Yeah.
K Blue 90. Russ, now you understand Somali comedy. Come perform Aaliyah in Minnesota.
We should do a live show in Minneapolis. Yeah,
that would be
should. That'd be great.
One of the songs I know how to play that I did in my one and only recital was Christmas Card from a Hooker in Minneapolis.
Oh, there you go.
We could open the show with that.
Yeah, there you go. Nice.
Amadeus, libs and cons would be cackling and gloating if Venezuela ended up like Libya. Libs and cons are irredeemably evil. They just can't take it themselves. We are going to be getting to some of that next. Virtuoso, Trump's True Social post made the Rob Reiner murder about himself, but hey, at least stuck the landing with may Rob and Michelle rest. Yeah, see, everyone ignored that part. That's what's called TDS.
Yeah, he knows the rules. You start with a compliment and end with a compliment.
Yeah,
you
there
know.
you go.
Yeah,
but that's what everyone will remember.
Yeah.
Michael Castillo, when I heard Rob Reiner and his wife were offed, I thought it was Donald Trump settling all family business. Free Palestine.
It's funny.
Well,
When I didn't think it was Trump, obviously, I know you're joking, but I did think was this politically motivated attack because he is such an outspoken, lib.
well,
You know,
sure.
that was
Yeah,
my
I mean
first.
that broke while we were on
Yeah,
the
that
air.
was my first reaction, my first suspicion. Yeah.
Sparky, Rob Reiner played a hippie named Moondog in an episode of Gomer Pyle USMC in the 1960s. Although Bill Cosby's career didn't end well, he owed his career to Rob pointing him out to his dad, Carl. Ah, interesting. I
One of
did
my
not
favorite
know.
roles of his was one of his later ones where he played. It was a small part, but he nailed it. He played Jordan Belfort's father in The Wolf of Wall Street. He played Leo's dad, where they go out and they drop all this money
I don't even remember
at
that.
a steakhouse. He says, he said, sides. You spent $80 on sides. Yeah, or whatever, $300. I don't forget what the amount was, but no, yeah, it was funny. All right, let me take some Rumble rants over here. Abiding says December 16th, 1983, Corn Pop got pinched in Bryant Park for hawking bootleg Cabbage Patch abominations. Did a 5-day jolt in the tombs before being released from overcrowding. Thank you, Abiding. Beto, one side of one. Oh my God, I was so surprised when I realized Keaton was related to Barry Weiss. Ha ha. I mean, we're all cousins in that respect.
Yes,
to my knowledge, I haven't seen her at any of the Seders. Eric Rousseau, you see the two veterans who tried to turn themselves into FBI claiming they were Antifa commanders. No, I didn't see that. I did not see that. That sounds like an interesting story. George, on Monday, Mr. Mate stated Venezuela is not only the source of narcotics and terrorism, but also cooties. Imagine if that doesn't tip the scales. Nothing does, right? Wait till Trump finds out. Thank you, George. Noah Goop says, funny watching complete AI slop fake trailers for the new Avengers go crazy viral on X. Silly Goyim. I did not see any of that.
I saw that Steve Rogers was trending. I assumed they had dropped a real trailer, but I guess it's not.
Right. Abiding, Turtle Island bus, 3 informants and 1 guy with a 74 IQ, along with the bus showcasing 3 pieces of PVC pipe on the table. Yeah, I have to do more research about that. We're going to touch on that briefly in a future segment, but I don't, to my knowledge, I mean, I know you're joking, but I know, to my knowledge, no further information has come out about that. But yeah, anytime a thing like that happens, after seeing what they did to the Newburgh 4 in my hometown, I'm always suspicious of that. Russ, what's the story behind that t-shirt? Also, Rob Reiner's appearance on the Larry Sanders Show was TV gold. Have a great show, gents. So much love to the entire DD team. T-Bone.
Well, when you start ordering these kinds of shirts, the AI is getting sophisticated enough to know what to offer you. So this came up in the algo. I was like, oh yeah, that, sure.
Yeah. There
That's
you go.
the whole story.
Made it happen. That's the story. It's ICE. That's what I mean. ICE is the gang, but it's not.
You don't know what it says.
Yeah, it's not necessarily clear from looking at it. Yeah. Aware of ICE.
Okay, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Keith says Mark Pugliese. I hate the libs like Reiner even more because of the innocence you refer to. A candidate for Marxist re-education, if ever I saw one. Thank you, Mark Pugliese.
No, look, I'm the one who really does most of the on-the-ground stuff. So I've done a couple of these mocking the libs, the Pod Save America audience outside online, and recently No Kings. Yeah, I always feel bad when I cut these together because, it's really like you're kicking a dumb animal.
Right.
Like, they're just not smart.
Right.
They're so innocent. Like, they don't get it.
They just
don't
don't
get it at all.
No, when I went to the Nikki Haley rallies in New Hampshire, when I covered them, it's a lot of libs at those rallies because she had a lot of Hillary Democrat support.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I saw a lot of them. No, I know there's this one guy, I won't say his name. He claims to watch the show. I think he's full of garbage. I don't think he does. But he's a lib, and he's not like a dumb guy. He's just politically clueless. And but I always feel very awkward when I see him. Because he knows that I do this, and so he wants to talk politics with you. I'm like, listen, it's very hard for me to be honest with you without insulting you. So can we please change the subject? All right. Why don't we move on right along?
Okay, so I don't know why these stories always come up when I'm about to fly. All those Boeing stories were happening when I was going back and forth to LA to host for Jimmy. JetBlue flight and U.S. Air Force aircraft avoid mid-air collision near Venezuela, pilot says. Pretty scary. So this is a little CNN clip, which includes the audio from the black box of the pilot right after this happens.
Audio in this morning after a crazy near mid-air collision. A JetBlue flight leaving the small Caribbean nation of Curacao en route to New York had to abruptly stop its ascent to avoid colliding with a U.S. Air Force plane. The JetBlue pilot spoke to air traffic control basically as this played out. Just listen to this.
We almost had a mid-air collision up here. Traffic passed directly in front of us within 5 miles of us, maybe 2-3 miles, but it was an air-to-air refueler from the United States Air Force. They don't have their transponder turned on. It's outrageous. We had to stop our climb and actually descend to avoid hitting them.
The flight was near, that JetBlue plane was near Venezuela at the time, which is notable because the incident comes as the U.S. military has stepped up its campaign and presence there amid President Trump's anti-drug trafficking campaign in the Caribbean, and also the attempts to continue to increase pressure on Venezuela's government. JetBlue now says they've reported the incident to federal authorities. Joining me right now,
Yeah, there were over 200 people on that plane that could very easily have died because of this.
Yeah, just so people understand, the average speed of an aircraft is about 500 miles an hour. So that's about 8 miles.
500 up to 800 miles. It depends how high they are.
Yeah,
If
so
they were climbing, they were probably on the lower end at that time.
All right, so if we say 500, that's 8 miles a minute. So if you come within 2 miles of hitting a plane, that's within seconds of hitting a plane. 2 miles sounds like, what's the big deal? No, it's a huge deal.
Right.
That's seconds.
Yes.
That's within seconds of a crash. Yeah.
U.S. Southern Command is reviewing an incident in which a JetBlue flight and a U.S. Air Force aircraft almost collided mid-air near Venezuela on Friday. In a statement, U.S. Southern Command said military air crews are highly trained professionals who operate in accordance with established procedures and applicable airspace requirements. Safety remains a top priority, and we are working through the appropriate channels to assess the facts surrounding the situation, U.S. Southern Command spokesperson Colonel Manny Ortiz said. The JetBlue flight was traveling from Curacao off the coast of Venezuela to New York City when a pilot spotted the Air Force tanker. U.S. Southern Command operates in this region amid a rise in tension between Venezuela and the U.S., with the Trump administration conducting strikes on alleged drug boats in the Caribbean Sea and Eastern Pacific. In a statement, JetBlue said the flight crew promptly reported the incident to leadership. Quote, "We have reported this incident to federal authorities and will participate in any investigation," the airline said in the statement. Air traffic control audio documents the moment the JetBlue pilot reported that the military aircraft passed about 2 to 5 miles in front of the plane. "They passed directly in our flight path," the pilot said. "We had to stop our climb." The pilot also said the tanker did not have its transponder on. A transponder is an electric device that allows air traffic control to track an aircraft accurately. One way transponders do that is by squawking or sending a code to air traffic control to identify itself and provide information like altitude. A squawk code was not used during Friday's incident. There are times when squawk is not used to communicate aircraft information, like during military operations. "It's outrageous," the pilot said. According to a U.S. official familiar with the incident, the tanker was within approved range of the JetBlue flight, and it's not uncommon for military aircraft to fly with their transponders on. Oh, so within seconds of killing 200 people, that's the approved range? Is that like the range of the helicopter that killed the soccer team at Dulles very early in the administration?
Amazing.
And of course, this comes at the same time. This is the White House. They're very proud of this. They tweeted this out. President Trump just declared fentanyl a weapon of mass destruction.
Oh, where have we heard that language before? Weapons of mass destruction.
We showed, the Daily Show made this comparison very effectively of the language around Iraq and the language now around Venezuela.
Yeah, could not get any more on the nose than that.
This critical step unleashes every tool to combat the cartels and foreign networks responsible for flooding communities with this deadly substance, the leading cause of death among Americans aged 18 to 45. Well, I'm saying lack of health care is about to make a comeback next year. So here he is announcing this.
Boy, today I'm taking one more step to protect Americans from the scourge of deadly fentanyl flooding into our country. With this historic executive order I will sign today, we're formally classifying fentanyl as a weapon of mass destruction, which is what it is. No bomb does what this is doing. 200 to 300,000 people die every year that we know of. So we're formally classifying fentanyl as a weapon of mass destruction.
You know what I think is a weapon of mass destruction? Money. I think money is a weapon of mass destruction. I would like my president to declare money a weapon of mass destruction.
Well, if you're worried about people dying, cutting their healthcare subsidies is a funny way to go about keeping them alive. That's for sure. Adam Cochran. 1, this is dumb. 2, he is absolutely going to use this as grounds to invade Venezuela. So once again, America is about to send U.S. troops into combat to lose their lives over non-existent WMDs in a country that happens to be rich in oil. Some things never change. Melanie de Arrigo. If you had to bet on which day the Trump administration will choose to start a ground invasion of Venezuela, Friday would be a safe bet. And she tweets that over. Breaking. Epstein files are scheduled to be released on Friday per the Epstein Files Transparency Act. We will see. And here from Max, for weeks, the Trump administration's Operation Southern Spear has been playing with the lives of airline passengers traversing the Caribbean. Throughout November, the U.S. military employed electronic warfare to jam the GPS of passenger airline pilots to force international airlines to quit flying to Caracas. Colombia's Minister of Transport, Maria Fernanda Rojas, slammed the cyber attacks targeting aircraft operating near Venezuela. Quote, deceptive signals are being emitted. Cyber attacks. Signals intended to fool positioning equipment. GPS, Rojas declared on December 2nd. To technologically sabotage an air operation anywhere in the world is a crime. We cannot allow that, unquote. On December 12th, a U.S. Army refueling tanker flying without its transponder nearly collided with a JetBlue flight. The Trump administration is engaged in borderline terrorism against civilian airlines and endangering travelers across the Caribbean, all to further a deranged regime change operation now focused on stealing oil tankers. How much longer before a flight is sacrificed for Marco Rubio's mania? You know, sadly, I'm surprised it hasn't happened yet. I trust Max's reporting, and given that, you also have that statement from Colombia, it sounds like they're doing quite a lot to get people killed there. And if there was ever a crew that is going to have that kind of total disregard for human life in pursuit of their deranged objective, it's this crew. Like, these people are not normal. Like, a normal administration, just in terms of the PR fallout, would go out of their way to try to avoid bringing down a commercial airliner while they're trying to build up public support for a senseless war. Not these guys. Not that. Look what happened here, man. If these pilots had not been on the ball, it would be a very different story. It would be a very tragic story. The fact that the guy had to dip to avoid the plane, and in the story, I didn't include that part. They said, part of the reason that everyone didn't die here is the pilots did what they were supposed to do. They didn't go by their instruments. You're always supposed to be also making visual contact with the environment. So they literally looked out the window and saw the plane because the instruments wouldn't have told them it was there because the transponder was off. That's the only reason everyone didn't die on that flight.
No, it's just amazing. Amazing the level of just abject idiocy layered on top of all of the corruption and the just, rank warmongering, just right in your face. Right in your face. You call it a weapon of mass destruction. I mean, Donald Trump made a lot of hay out of this in 2015, in 2016. The big debate moment between him and Jeb Bush was about the WMD lie.
Right.
He said there were no weapons of mass destruction, and they knew that, and they took us to war over it anyway. So that is like that is a triggering phrase, right, within American political discourse. Weapon of mass destruction. That conjures up in people the lie that got us into a war that should have never been waged, and you come out and just piss right in their face by saying we're declaring fentanyl a weapon of mass destruction. So now what? Venezuela has WMDs. It's the same exact same exact line of bullshit. I mean, it's extraordinary. It's really, I'm a broken record, but there's no other way to put this. I have never seen anything like this. I have never seen
nobody has
so politically self-destructive ever.
I cannot believe that a military run by a drunk who acts like a 13-year-old who just discovered beer last week.
Exactly.
I can't believe that this is the outcome of that kind of leadership.
Yeah, just extraordinary. Really is. All right, everybody. Well, it is Tuesday, which means yesterday a new episode of The Grifter's Bible dropped on YouTube. The Grifter's Bible is a mind-bending novel by El Shabooms, and it's now a free weekly series on YouTube with a soundtrack by monumental sonic architecture. Follow the First Electric Church of Jesus Christ as they combine the bleeding edge of black patented neuroscience with the state-of-the-art in Michigan to beat the Great Recession. They sell visions of God to the huddled masses of Deep Ellum, Texas, and the money pours in until the local competition, the police, and the U.S. Navy decide to put a stop to it. There's ass whoopings, car chases, and a showdown at high noon on Good Friday in Dodge City. It's sci-fi noir. It's a picaresque thriller. It's a Western from 10 minutes in the future. It's The Grifter's Bible. It's a film series by El Shabooms with a soundtrack by monumental sonic architecture. New episode is posted every Monday at this link, youtube.com/@El-Shaboom. So please do go and check that out. Dissidents who have subscribed and who have watched the series have good things to say. So please go and check that out, youtube.com/@El-Shabooms. Okay. You want to take some super chats?
Why don't you go first, because I'm loading in videos right now.
Okay. All right. EO Shush says Trump with the genocide, Epstein, inflation, repealing the Obamacare subsidies, and just when I think Trump couldn't possibly be any worse, he tweets something like this and totally redeems himself. Thank you, EO Shush.
Nice twist.
Nice twist. Professor Brown note, Keaton Cornell West as White House spokesperson. Thank you, precious sister Pam. The fake news bears false witness that Supreme Jazzman Brother Donald is a sodomite like false prophet Chomsky. Thank you. Good one, Professor Brown note. Vianticus Prime says everything's a scam, everything's a lie. You know what? I'm tired. Oh, we lost you there, Vianticus. Thank you. China Shell says the MAGAs pretending like their beacons of empathy is so disingenuous. Yeah, of course. Now they suddenly care about people's feelings and being insensitive. They think you have the memory of a goldfish. No, I mean, it is a cult at this point. At this point, there's no other way to really describe them. I mean, at this point, anyone who wasn't down to be in a cult has left. Eric Cousseau, I lost 2 old army buddies as friends because I ripped Trump and told them they were in a cult. Well, there you go. Because they know I hate Dems also, I left them without the usual nonsense rebuttal. Well, thank you, Eric Cousseau. Sorry to hear that, but sorry it came to that. But what can you do? All right. You got the super chats ready? Are you set?
Yep.
All right.
Xander Vorkov, show me on the doll where Trump hurt you, is not a quote that was made with the full awareness of the current moment. Good point. Texas Real 007. Hey, fellas, did you see Sebastian Gorka interview yesterday? Woo, not good. We are all Israel haters, according to him. Well, I saw his speech at like one of their Zionist fanatic events a few days ago. Richard Hughes. Happy Festivus, fellas. Remember to gather with your family and let them know how they have disappointed you this past year. And
That's
Keaton, Festivus isn't over until you pin me.
Haha, good one. Good one. I know that one.
Sparky. Believe it or not, there was a time in the U.S. where people could hold extreme, diametrically opposed political views and still be lifelong friends. They deal with politics by chuckling about each other. Dude, one of our patrons has been my friend since high school. He came from the private school, so he was coming to school dressed in a Brook Brothers suit and wingtips, and I was like a heavy metal kid with long hair. The first thing he ever said to me was, "Your long hair is disrespectful to your elders." I shit you not.
No way.
And we've been the best of friends for over 30 years.
Huh.
Different times.
Mhm.
Lee Hawthorne. First, Indiana takes half of Illinois. Then we take all of Canada. Then we make pork tenderloin the national sandwich and Mountain Dew Live Wire the national soft drink by force if necessary. Okay, Larry? Funny. Interrobang 5000. Another party yet, anyone? Hashtag none of the above. Hells yeah. Sparky. Many thought President Trump was Rodney Dangerfield in Caddyshack, but he not only turned out to be Judge Smales Ted Knight, he turned out to be Judge Smales playing golf with Lindsey Graham. That was a very good way to put it.
Yes.
All right. You want to move along?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's move right on along here. Let me see. What did I do? Oh, did I fuck this up? Did I forget to load my shit in? Yeah, I forgot to load my shit in. Here, take a few others. I thought I did. That's very weird. Where'd it go? Wait, did I not load it? No, it's not there. All right. I just need like a minute. Yeah, just take a few more. It'll be quick.
Okay. All right. Charles H. I bet Trump has a golden glory hole to go with his toilet. Trump, it's one of the best holes besides mine, right, Miriam? Yeah. Dr. Malley, 86. Happy birthday, Keaton. Boom.
Thank you.
John Smith, birthday money for Keaton. Spend it wisely. Well, he already got that 5-star upstate Mexican food. Stray cat in the streets. Reiner, nasty guy, came in and said, "Wow, what a nasty guy." Sir, he's dead. Wow, good guy. He had what they call TDS. Not good. Believe me, not good.
Not good. All right. I think we are good to go over here. Perfect. All right.
Beautiful.
All right. So let's move right on along. Let's see what our friends at the Federal Bureau of Investigation are up to nowadays. Well, FBI Director Kash Patel tweets out something that was reposted by his second-hand man there, his right-hand man, Dan Bongino. Over the weekend, the FBI disrupted a credible imminent terrorist threat and arrested 4 individuals connected to the Los Angeles area. The subjects self-identified as members of a radical offshoot of the Turtle Island Liberation Front, TILF, an extremist group motivated by pro-Palestinian, anti-law enforcement, and anti-government ideology. They were allegedly planning a coordinated IED bombing attacks on New Year's Eve, targeting 5 separate locations across Los Angeles. In the days since, FBI New Orleans arrested an additional 5th individual believed to be linked to this radical TILF subgroup, also allegedly planning a separate violent attack. Outstanding work by our investigations and law enforcement partners at the DOJ. Their work undoubtedly saved countless lives. FBI LA will hold a press conference later today to share additional details. Now, I'm not sure. We have not heard enough information about this case at this point to dig into it any further. And the way these cases often work is they end in plea deals, which means you never actually see a lot of the evidence that the FBI has, because if the defendants take plea deals, then that evidence never goes to trial and it's never made public. So we don't know what to say about this beyond what they're saying now. But if you've been following the show for a while, you know I'm from Newburgh, New York. This story about the Newburgh 4 was a blatant case of FBI entrapment where they literally manufactured a fake terrorist plot and then roped 4 mentally incompetent, desperate, poor Black Muslims into participating in it. It was such an egregious miscarriage of justice that the judge, who had no choice but to sentence them after they were found guilty by a jury because they did not take a plea deal, she had to sentence them from 25 years to life. And she sentenced them all to 25 years, a signal that she knew the case was manufactured and bullshit. And then she let them out early because the case was manufactured. Again, I'm not saying that is what happened in this case. I'm saying whenever I see a headline like that, this is the first thing I think about, because there was a film made about this case called The Newburgh Sting, where toward the end of the movie, the filmmakers do a great job of demonstrating that this case was not a one-off. This is very common, that the FBI will act as though they've infiltrated an ongoing plot. Meanwhile, what they've actually done is manufactured a fake plot in order to sow fear amongst the public that there's an imminent threat. Again, I cannot say that is what happened in this case because we don't know enough to say that. And if this case ends in a plea deal, we might never know. That's part of their tactic, right? Not saying that is what's going on. I'm saying that's always where my mind goes. So we will see if any more information comes to light about that. But that's a big win that they're touting this week. And it's about the only big win that they're touting this week, because Kash Patel has apparently stepped in it again. Kash Patel faces criticism for touting FBI's work tracking down suspect prematurely. The FBI director said his agency helped detain a person of interest in the Brown University shooting, who was then released hours later. A mistake he made earlier this year, obviously, regarding the Charlie Kirk shooting. Kash Patel, the director of the FBI, is once again facing criticism for rushing to social media to tout his agency's work on tracking down a person of interest in a shooting prematurely. After a shooter killed 2 and injured 9 at Brown University on Saturday, Patel, a lawyer and right-wing commentator before his job in the administration, posted on X that his agency had helped detain a person of interest in a hotel room in Coventry, Rhode Island, acting off a lead from the Providence police. So here he is, taking to social media an update on the FBI response at Brown University. FBI Boston established a command post to intake, develop, and analyze leads and run them to ground. We activated the FBI's cellular analysis survey team to provide critical geolocation capabilities. As a result, early this morning, FBI Boston's Safe Streets Task Force, with assistance from U.S. Marshals and Coventry Police Department, detained a person of interest in a hotel room in Coventry, Rhode Island, based off a lead by the Providence, Rhode Island PD. We have deployed local and national resources to process and reconstruct the shooting scene, providing HQ and lab elements on scene. We set up a digital media intake portal to ingest images and video from the public related to this incident. And the FBI's victim specialists are fully integrating with our partners to provide resources to victims and survivors of this horrific violence. This FBI will continue an all-out 24/7 campaign until justice is fully served. Thanks to the men and women of the FBI, our partners for their continued teamwork. Please continue praying for the victims and their families, as well as those at Brown University. It's funny, he sounds like a kid turning in a book report, right? Showing the teacher how proud they should be of him, reporting this to the public. Now, notice he can tout all of this great work, but he can't tell you any of the Charlie Kirk evidence. He can't get into any of that because there's a trial coming up. That's what Megyn Kelly would have you think. He could tweet out a picture of the text message exchange, or when there's a shooting at the ICE facility, he'll tweet out a picture of the bullets immediately, right? And he'll give you a very detailed rundown of all the great work that they're doing. It's just not in the Charlie Kirk case. They have to keep their mouth shut until the trial. Funny how that works. But the person of interest was later released from custody hours later, and the shooter is still at large. So in other words, hey, looks like we got the guy. Turns out we didn't. We have not yet solved this case, but I am confident we are going to do that in the near future, Rhode Island Attorney General Peter Nerona said Monday, adding there was only a quantum of evidence which justified detaining this person as a person of interest. This isn't the first time Patel has erroneously posted online to tout police work. After Charlie Kirk was murdered on a college campus in September, Patel shared on social media that the subject for the horrific shooting today that took the life of Charlie Kirk is now in custody though the shooter had not yet been apprehended. Conservatives came after Patel for the error. Some have referred to him as Keystone Cash, a reference to slapstick policing by Keystone cops depicted in silent films. And of course, there is that banger that we all remember from that day, touting the arrest of, turned out, a suspect who ended up being released. On top of that, we talk about timing. Katie Miller, wife of Stephen Miller, has a podcast that's dropping tomorrow, as of yesterday, meaning today, at 6 p.m. Eastern. The Love Story, FBI Director Kash Patel and Alexis Wilkins. Is she from Israel? How do they make long distance work? When is the engagement? Ha, ha, ha. Tomorrow at 6 p.m. So here's the trailer that she dropped for this.
To be joined by Kash and his beautiful girlfriend, Alexis. So I just want to clarify, you're not Jewish. I'm not. You are not from Israel. No. So how did we get to, are you a Mossad agent?
You know, that's a great question.
Where's her ring? Just to clarify, how often has he traveled to see you since January 20th? Has there been one moment where you're like, you can't make this up?
That's coming out today, folks. That's coming out today, folks.
Wow.
Apparently, I guess they haven't canceled the release of that yet. But of course, the comments were full of the obvious questions. Doing podcast fluff while the brown shooter is still at large? Asks our friend Blakely. Adam says, this is pathetic and disgraceful. There's an active manhunt going on, and the head of the FBI is doing the podcast circuit with his girlfriend. Vatnik Soup says, as FBI director, shouldn't Kash be focused on finding the mass killer still on the loose rather than discussing his private life on a podcast? So apparently, having reacted to all these comments, Katie Miller decided she better clarify. She tweets out this morning, this was taped prior to Sunday, meaning that they actually recorded this episode before there was this active manhunt and before Kash Patel steps in it saying, hey, we got the guy. No, we don't have the guy. Oh, this was taped earlier. This happened in the past. So don't worry. He's not taking time off catching the bad guy to do my podcast. The optics of this are still extraordinarily cringe. Like, why can't you just cancel the release of the podcast, given the fact that there is an active manhunt going on, even if it was recorded before? Do you really need the content that badly? Can't you just can the world go a week without the Katie Miller show? And if not, you're connected to the Trump team, right? You have all of the people's phone numbers in this administration. If not, I'm sure your husband can get in touch with someone who can fill in as a replacement guest this week in a pinch because the optics of this are so bad. And hey, if we're really being honest, the love story that America is interested in Trump world is not really Kash Patel and Alexis Wilkins. If you really want to give the people what they want, call in a favor and get these two on. This is what we all want to see. I mean, who cares about Kash Patel and Alexis Wilkins anyway? This is the episode I want to see. I want to see the felching secrets between RFK Jr. and Cheryl Hines. I mean, give the people what they want. You can. Your husband is Stephen Miller. I'm sure he can get these people in a room. Hey, my wife is in a jam here. It looks terrible to have Kash Patel on. We need to do a couple story this week. So why don't you guys come in?
It's actually a funny story. Larry David was very squeamish once he walked into Cheryl's dressing room and she was sucking the cum out of my ass. He was, I think the Jews, they call it plotzing. I think he was plotzing.
He was plotzing. We stopped getting invites to Martha's Vineyard after that. He moved out of the house next door.
After that, I was banned from set for a while.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we all want to see. But yeah, Sagar and Jetty says, what IQ do you have to be the director of the FBI and agree to this interview? So 60. Yeah, man. I mean, come on. Are you kidding? You kidding
he's
me?
A clown. He's a clown in an administration of clowns.
It is a ridiculous thing to do. It's just a ridiculous, especially when, I'm sorry, like, it's not so funny when you're suing a guy over making jokes about her being a honeypot. Right. At that point, it's not like, oh, ha ha, is she from Israel? Ha ha, is she Jewish? Ha ha. It's not so funny when you're actually trying to like destroy a guy's life. sue a guy into bankruptcy for making what was clearly a joke about this topic on X. Again, just absolute buffoonery. Such buffoonery, maybe this guy's about to call it quits. I don't know. This is breaking at the same time all this is going down. Deputy FBI Director Dan Bongino to decide about future at Bureau in coming weeks, sources say. I mean, he's got a reputation to maintain after all. You know, he's got a lot of 1775 coffee left to sell. He's not really ready to just lay it all on the line for Kash Patel, Alexis Wilkins, and Katie Miller.
Let me tell you, ever since I took this job, that guy at the quartering's eating my lunch.
Yeah, right. Exactly. I can't sleep at night knowing that fat fuck is outselling me, selling more coffee than me.
On top of all this, I'm over here covering up for PDF files. This is not what I signed up for.
On top of all this, that fucking fat slob is moving more coffee than I am, to add insult to injury. Deputy FBI Director Dan Bongino will make a decision about his future at the Bureau within the next few weeks. Sources familiar with his considerations tell Fox News. The sources deny recent reports that Bongino's office at the FBI is empty, but they say his departure is a possibility in the near future. A source familiar with the situation told Fox News Digital that Bongino has not made any decisions about his future. Bongino's tenure at the FBI has come under fire in recent weeks alongside FBI Director Kash Patel. Earlier this month, a report from an alliance of active duty and retired FBI personnel portrayed the Bureau as directionless under its new leadership. Yeah, no shit. Bongino and Patel pushed back on the report, however, defending sweeping reforms they say have delivered major gains in accountability and public safety. When the director and I moved forward with these reforms, we expected some noise from the small circle of disgruntled former agents still loyal to the old Comey Ray model, Bongino told Fox News at the time. That was never our audience. Our responsibility is to the American people. And under the new leadership team, the Bureau is delivering results this country hasn't seen in decades. Tighter accountability, tougher performance standards, billions saved, and a mission-first culture. That's how you restore trust. Oh, yeah, they're restoring trust big time. Tony Segura tweets, no official announcement, but half a dozen sources at both the FBI and the DOJ have indicated that Dan Bongino's Washington, D.C. office is largely empty. His chief of staff has taken a new leadership role in Baltimore, and FBI insiders expect his departure in January 2026, potentially with co-deputy director Andrew Bailey, assuming full duties. I think that's right. We've long suspected on this show that he was going to be the first to quit and that he wouldn't do it right away because it would look too much like this is all about Epstein. But now you have the Epstein deadline coming up, which is going to be the last big Epstein drop from the FBI and DOJ for a while, at least, according to everything we know about it right now. And so let the holidays go by, let the calendar turn over into a new year, and then part ways on amicable terms. He's looked completely miserable this entire time. So this is one of the first interviews he did since taking the job. This is way back in the spring of this year. Dan Bongino, I gave up everything for this. My wife is struggling. I stare at these four walls all day in D.C. by myself. It's hard. Let's take a look at this.
Give up everything for this. I mean, you know, my wife is struggling. I'm not a victim. I'm not Jim Comey. It's fine. I did this, and I'm proud I did it. But if you think we're there for tea and crumpets, well, I mean, Kash is there all day. We share it. Our offices are linked. He turns on the faucet. I hear it. He's there. He gets in at like 6 o'clock in the morning.
He puts his samosas in the microwave. I can fucking smell it. I say, would it kill you to eat a peanut butter and jelly sandwich a couple days a week? Jesus Christ, what's going on here?
He doesn't leave till 7 at night. You know, I'm in there at 7:30 in the morning. He uses the gym. I work out in my apartment. But I stare at these four walls all day in D.C., you know, by myself, divorced from my wife. Not divorced, but I mean separated, divorced. And it's hard. I mean, you know, we love each other, and it's hard to be apart.
But you're doing some great work. You're straightening out the FBI. You're moving buildings. There's a lot of...
Giving him a pep talk. Hey, come on. Sit up straight. Sit up straight there. Come on, soldier. Get your head in the game.
Sack.
Yeah, no one likes it. No, he's been a total sad sack since he took the job. I think he probably dreaded taking the job. I think he was probably he was probably kind of upset when they offered him the job because he couldn't feel like he could turn it down. But at the same time, this guy had it made. I mean, this guy was like one of the #1 streamers in America across any platform. I mean, on Rumble, which is a much smaller platform than YouTube, the guy's numbers would often beat the top YouTube live stream numbers. This guy had it made. Ever since he took this job, he has looked completely dejected. And my read on Bongino is that he's actually not like one of these totally soulless, amoral people. He seems like a regular guy. He seems like the kind of guy I would run into at my uncle's Thanksgiving, you know. He seems relatively normal, as people like this go. I mean, all famous people are a little bit weird, I think. But he doesn't strike me as being as lizard-like as the rest of them. And so it makes sense he would be the first one to be like, you know what? I've had it. He looks like he's ready to fucking quit here. And this was 3 months into the job. The hours are so long. I never see my family anymore. I gave up everything for this. Yeah, I don't think his heart's in it. And he strikes me as a guy who's, I shouldn't say normal. Normal is not the right word because I don't think any of these people are quite normal. He strikes me as simpler than the rest of them. Simple enough not to realize the depth of what he was getting into. I didn't think he realized he would have to handle the Epstein files in the way that he has. Right. And I think it's too obvious to quit now, but I think the hour is getting late. I think this reporting is right. We've always thought this. We've always suspected he's not going to last the whole term here.
I think what happened is Bongino was a true believer, and he really thought their mission was going to be to clean up government, clean up the deep state. That's what he was getting into in terms of his career. This is just the podcast world version of the way people take the revolving door jobs in government because it just boosts their cred when they go back out into the private sector. It just broadens their options. I think on a career level, he probably saw it that way. But I don't think he's as craven as Cash, who, he is a toady. If Barry Weiss is watching, that is a proper use of the term. Cash is a toady through and through. I think Bongino thought they were going in there to save America for real. Right. And I'm confident at this point that what they saw in those Epstein files was shocking to them, or at least to him. And then they were told that they had to go out and sell the idea that there's nothing there. And if you see him in that first interview they did, that joint interview about there not being a client list, he's sweating bullets.
Oh, yeah.
He looks like he's in an interrogation room under the hot lights. I think he's horrified by what he's had to do in this job. I think it's woken him up to the reality of the world that he is living in and who these people actually are, who he promoted on his podcast. I think, honestly, not really understanding who they were and what this whole scene was about. And, they robbed him of his innocence. And I think what happened, because there were rumors back then that he was so angry about the Epstein files that he was going to quit.
Right.
I think they gave him a sit down. That's what I thought at the time. They gave him a sit down. They said, listen, you could leave with no hard feelings, or you could leave with very hard feelings. And very hard feelings is going to be if you leave right now and give everybody something to wag their tongue about. Oh, Bongino was too pure to be with these people. You stick it out for a few months. You don't leave at a time where the timing looks like it has to do with that. And we'll leave you alone. We'll talk about what a great guy you are. You go out the other way, you're going to have trouble with us. I think that's what happened.
I think so, too. If he left right after that memo was sent, it'd have been too obvious. It would have made the whole Epstein thing even worse for them.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Just get some distance.
And they gave him a talk. They had a sit down.
Yes, I think that's probably true. All right. You want to take some super chats?
All right. Sparky. What an incredibly long list of very successful movies Rob Reiner directed. It's hardly possible to remember them all without referencing a written list. Yeah, well, and also because he didn't make himself the auteur. A lot of movies he directed, I think a lot of people don't even realize he directed.
Yeah, like you would never think Rob Reiner directed Misery.
Or A Few Good Men.
Right, or A Few Good Men, right.
Sparky. Many otherwise bright people, even non-boomers, still believe TV news and newspapers, oblivious to it being set up solely to mislead them and or their political leaders. Brother, you don't have to tell me, man. The arts community breaks my heart. Breaks my heart how fucking brainwashed those people are. Because society really needs them to be saying things that they're not. Jolly Man Big Boy, Trump. And I will also declare that Miriam's 15-inch is a weapon of ass destruction. You see what I did there? See what I did there? Sparky. Fentanyl isn't a Venezuela thing. It's a U.S. three-letter agency thing, beginning with the FDA changing it from a clinical use only drug to a take-home drug. It's dead easy to OD on. Pun intended. Wouldn't surprise me any. Sparky, fentanyl crisis is a huge grift. U.S. government created and perpetuated the grift to thin the herd, but continue to find off-label uses for that grift. I mean, I touched on it a little bit before when you see how, Gen Z is having like accelerated aging and, the exploding cases of youth cancer. I mean, that doesn't tell you they're trying to kill you off. What does? I feel really bad for that generation, man. Those poor kids. Zandor Vorkov. I don't see no whiskey plates on airplanes. They can't even pull you over up there.
Good one.
Sparky. Incidents like Bondi Beach in Australia and elsewhere should be assumed to be false flags until proved to be otherwise. It's a good way to reduce false flags. Oh, I'll be getting into that angle. We'll be covering it a little later. F Israel and their false flags. Yep. All right. You want to take some?
Yep. Professor Brown, no, the tweet was the felching straw that broke the Teflon camel's back. Thank you. John M. says Trump is losing it figuratively and literally. Note MRI of his brain was never released. Look up white matter disease. All right, I will look that up. Thank you. 007 Angelo says DD University is open for business. Professors Keaton and Russ masterclass is in session. Awesome job as always, gents. We need guys like you in the Oval Office, not these mental rejects. Rest in peace, Rob Reiner. Thank you, 007.
I'm doing this on 3 hours sleep because I'm having major anxiety about my upcoming trip.
Yeah. He couldn't sleep last night.
It was a rough one.
Rough night.
Yep.
Vienticus Prime, I will say that I was fortunate or unfortunate enough to realize how everything is a manufactured illusion at a very young age. What makes it so easy to see now is all the hate ginned up. It is very difficult for one to not become the thing they hate, because in order for a person to hate something, it must consume much of their thoughts, and thus it gets adopted through osmosis. Thank you, Vienticus.
It's interesting.
Yep. All right. We will move right on along. Yeah, Russ is on short sleep today.
I'm on short sleep. I'm doing all right, though. Doing all right. Sometimes your best shows are when you're like sleepy.
This is how short on sleep he was. I couldn't find my keys this morning, and I suspected Amanda had them because she had them for a brief moment last night. So I suspected Amanda had my keys. So all morning I'm looking for them, and we got to drive the kids to school, and we had a thing at the kids' school this morning. I'm like, where the hell are my keys? I'm like, are you sure you don't have my keys? She's like, yeah, no, I don't have them. I'm like, I'm pretty sure you have them. Now, in fairness, I lose shit all the time. I have ADD, so it was totally possible at the time that I misplaced my keys. So as I call Russ this morning to put the finishing touches on the show program, she comes up to me. She says, oh, guess what? Your keys were in my jacket the whole time. I said, oh, that's crazy. So I tell Russ, I said, hold on, Russ, I'm going to have to beat my wife. I'll call you back in 5 minutes. And he says, all right. And he hangs up the phone.
No, you know what? Like, I didn't even process what you
he didn't
said.
even process.
Obviously.
No, because he was obviously sleeping. He was obviously half asleep.
Call you back.
Yeah, he was obviously so half asleep. They didn't even process what I was saying. I made it as a joke. Like, obviously, I'm not going to do. And obviously, I did not plan on hanging up the phone. I just said, hey, I got to beat my wife. I'll call you back in 5 minutes. He goes, all right. He hangs up.
All right. So look, this kind of a trip is intimidating. It's like intimidating. But I also have like a whole like dental work that I've put off that I need. So these two things are colliding in my mind into one big ball of anxiety. So yeah. I haven't had a sleepless night like that literally in like years.
Yeah,
I'm usually
those can be
pretty
brutal.
mellow these days. Oh, I fucking hate that, man. I
Yeah.
hate that because like every time you start to fall asleep, your body pumps adrenaline
Right.
and then you
Right.
can't fall. Oh, it's terrible.
Yeah.
All right. Let's get to work. Let's rock and roll.
All right, let's do
See, a
it.
lot of times though, when you're tired, those are your best shows because you're uninhibited.
Right.
It shuts off. You don't have enough energy to
Right.
process things in a censorious way.
Right.
You know, could get us pulled off YouTube as well.
Right.
So
Yeah, exactly.
see how that goes. So hey, my girlfriend's back and you're gonna be in trouble. Harris is stepping toward another White House run. Giggles is back. Giggles the clown is back. So here she is, kind of laying down her statement of intent. You know what? We don't know that she's been watching the show. We do have some mutuals who say she's been watching the show. Guess what? Kamala's post-duopoly now.
Both parties have failed to hold the public's trust. Government is viewed.
Really revolutionary.
Government is viewed
Insight,
as fundamentally unable to meet the needs of its people. In these and in so many other ways, the people feel that the very institutions that were designed to support them have failed them. And they are not wrong.
Oh, really?
We must see
You
what
don't
is
say.
happening. People are done with the status quo.
Oh,
Oh,
And
really?
they're ready to break things to force change. And so, real talk, right? So in comes Donald Trump,
Well, that'd be a first.
casting
Oh,
himself as the change agent,
So brutal.
but with empty promises
Uh-huh.
to the American people. Under his leadership, we all know prices are up, inflation is up, unemployment is up, healthcare costs for millions of Americans are about to double.
Wow. This is what children, the libs are. Like that you're literally 10 years late to that conversation.
yeah.
You're 10 years late to that point. And you do politics for a living.
The American people were so angry. They had a choice between someone who was going to facilitate a genocide and destroy the status quo, and somebody who was going to facilitate a genocide and maintain it. And they voted for the guy who's going to burn it all down. I would have maintained the status quo while
Right.
doing a genocide. You got a genocide either way.
Right.
At least your healthcare wouldn't have gotten any worse. So this got a lot of commentary. That line was a favorite of AOCIA's when she was making her Pelosi is my mama bear turn. And it's unsurprising how it has now become the favorite slogan to spout from J Street Zionist hacks pretending to be epic-based radicals like that Harvard Adelson Tallarico cunt in Texas. I guess he doesn't like that guy. We covered that story the other night. I think we both really don't know anything about that guy.
I don't know much of their policy things.
No,
I
no,
see what the
yeah.
poll numbers are, and I'm like, oh,
Exactly. That's all we got into with that. Power to the people. The sudden change in rhetoric is to launch her 2028 bid. Don't fall for it. Capitalist governments will never meet the people's needs because their sole objective is to serve capital. Therein lay the rub. Therein lay the rub. And that's why Rob Reiner's entire generation has politics that are absolutely out of touch with the moment because their brains were pickled in that from a very early age. Brianna Joy Gray. Every candidate in 2028 is going to spit some it's top down, not left right pseudo populist pablum while refusing to tax the rich or support Medicare for all. And I need folks not to fall for it. Bree, I think as often happens, you are going to be disappointed. I think people are going to disappoint you again. Now, we never got around to covering this, but this is a good opportunity to just touch on this for a minute. Because Gavin Newsom is kind of, even though they seem to be going through yet another round of trying to make Kamala happen, more people think it's going to be Gavin Newsom. Of course, we don't know that. But here was his brilliant take when asked about a tax on wealth.
There is a wealth tax proposal in California that I think you are adamantly against.
Yes, I am.
And we have a mayor that's coming here in New York who would like to have a wealth tax if he could. You couldn't be more diametrically opposed.
Yeah, well, I want to be a Big Ten party. It's about addition, not subtraction.
But this idea of a unifying theory of the case.
I mean, I think we all want to be protected. We all want to be respected. We all want to be connected to something bigger than ourselves. We have fundamental values. That
Yes, I still talk to Kanye.
Our party about social justice, economic justice.
Maligned.
I think we recognize it's important to focus on growth, but also focus on inclusion. We have pre-distribution Democrats. We have redistribution Democrats. And therein lies the dialectic, and therein lies the debate within the Democratic Party. We also have Democrats that are representative of their districts, representative of the people that they represent. So much punditry has been done about, well, is the future of the party Mandami? At the same election that occurred, well, is the future, hold on, of Virginia? Is the future New Jersey? Is the future?
But which is it? And that's the question about the unifying theory question, which is you could have a big tent, but if the theories of the case are so diametrically opposed, how split and broken is the party?
Look, the party's knitting itself back together. We got shellacked in the last election. And there's been a lot of forensic analysis, perhaps not enough, about what happened.
All right, so I wanted to show that, even though this is a Kamala Harris segment, because I don't think there are that many people in our audience who think this, but anyone who thinks the Democrats are coming to save you, these are the people leading the polls for the Democrats. Kamala Harris, Gavin Newsom, Pete Buttigieg, who Ken asks her a simple question about genocide. Yeah, well, we all need to get in a room and have a conversation. You know, that's what they're offering you. That's what they're offering you. Kat Scott, there are about 200 billionaires and 40 million normal people in California. You could still have a big tent and tax billionaires. You think? You think that's so funny when they talk about this as if there's some kind of like really divided opinion on taxing billionaires, because in their mind there is. Because the donors, it's like a voting system where the donors are essentially super delegates with 50 billion votes.
Right. Well, they measure in money. They don't measure in people. They measure in dollars, right? So a big tent means we don't want to leave too many dollars outside the tent, not too many people outside the tent.
That's it. That's a very good way to put it.
Yeah.
Professor Zenkus, Gavin Newsom, estimated net worth between 20 and 30 million. Yeah, that might have something to do with it. Who do you think he identifies with? You or his donors? He's in their class. Says he's opposed to a billionaire wealth tax. Color me shocked. Democrats holding him up as a potential savior for 2028 is a clear example of not reading the room. And he includes a poll here. 4 in 5 support raising taxes on the rich and big corporations. This is not a divisive point of view. That's the tactic they use. They try to pretend that the center is so far to the right, it's fallen off the flat earth. From Axios, Kamala Harris isn't planning to go gently into that good night. She's planning on reading Dylan Thomas's famous poem in a live simulcast this Friday night. This week, the former vice president made clear to potential 2028 rivals that she's working to keep another White House campaign viable. Despite worries from party leaders and donors that she can't win, Harris remains at or near the top of most 2028 Democratic primary polls. She also has strong support among black voters. Since when? Since when? Like, what black voters are you talking about exactly? Because this is somebody who had to drop out before New Hampshire because all the polling was showing her polling under Mayo Pete in South fucking Carolina. What black voters are you talking about that all of a sudden are into Kamala Harris? The most critical voting bloc in most recent Democratic presidential primaries. After lying low the first part of this year and then embarking on a 2024 focused book tour, which has gone swimmingly, by the way, Harris made several moves this week that many Democrats see as the beginnings of a 2028 campaign. Harris announced many more stops on her tour to promote 107 Days, her story of her short presidential campaign last year. Tour stops in early 2026 will include the historically critical primary state of South Carolina and cities with many black voters, including Detroit, Jackson, Mississippi, Memphis, Tennessee, and Montgomery, Alabama. She appeared before the Democratic National Committee. Harris and her husband, Doug Emhoff, mingled with National Party officials and state party chairs in Los Angeles this week during the DNC's winter meeting. At a reception Wednesday evening, DNC Chair Ken Martin introduced Emhoff as the former second gentleman and quipped that he could be the future first gentleman. People who heard the remarks told Axios, hang on, this guy's political instincts tell him that Kamala Harris could become president? Well, I mean, at that point, I think you could take it to the bank.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, that guy, he's quite a Svengali, that one. So Harris also spoke Thursday night at the annual gala for the United Farm Workers and received enthusiastic applause. UFW President Teresa Romero told Axios rank and file UFW members from towns like Bakersfield, Salinas, Oxnard, and Modesto were excited to see her and know she's still fighting for them. Now, this is what you call manufacturing consent. Where's the video of these enthusiastic United Farm Workers? Why isn't there a link to a video?
No, why didn't Kamala film it?
Why? Well, of course. Or you still have some remnants of that K-Hive out there. Where are the clips of that? And isn't it funny that the famously corrupt union leadership is the only quote they could get? They didn't get quotes from actual union members. They got the president of the union. Oh yeah, no, I'm sure the United Farm Workers are all about Kamala and see her as somebody who fights for them. I'm sure that's how they think of Kamala Harris. So they just will not give up on this fucking woman. It's amazing.
Yeah, no, it's
they've been trying to make her a thing since Hillary lost.
Yeah, like
That's
what?
how
Gavin
I first
Newsom's
heard of her.
not enough. Like what? He won't execute enough of the deep state agenda. You need her. Why?
He's a white dude. They don't like that
Hey, the whites are back.
They don't stand for anything, so they need to hide behind identity to pretend that they do.
Yeah, well, make her vice president. That worked out well last time.
Yeah, she did such a great job there.
Yeah.
Several early polls have shown Newsom as a top contender for the 2028 nomination, but Morning Consult has consistently found Harris leading. Morning Consult surveys also have shown Harris narrowly outperforming Newsom against Vice President Vance. But two recent polls of the traditionally important state of New Hampshire found Harris trailing Newsom and former Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg.
Yeah, they love that guy up there too in New Hampshire. I don't know what the fuck it is with New Hampshire and Pete Buttigieg.
Yeah, I mean, for anybody, even electorally, if you want to see the Democrats come back into power, look at who they're picking. They haven't changed. They haven't learned a damn thing. J.D. Vance, I didn't include that part of the article. Apparently, as soon as these announcements started to come out that she's going to run, he literally bust a nut in the middle of a cabinet meeting. He had to run off and wipe his pants off. So I don't think I think this would be a dream for them if she were to get the nomination. Stephen Semler. Joe Biden left office with the second lowest presidential approval rating on record. The only president less popular is the one Kamala Harris managed to lose to. Professor Zenkis, the left didn't get Trump elected. Kamala Harris did by ignoring the voters when they demanded a shift in Gaza policy. And he quoted over an article. Kamala Harris paid the price for not breaking with Biden on Gaza. New poll shows 29% of non-voters who supported Biden in 2020 said U.S. support for the genocide was the top reason they sat the 2024 election out, according to a survey by YouGov. Hey, man, we're an example of that. We said that at the time. Like, if she had just gone ahead and run on ending arms sales and funding to Israel, yeah, I mean, morally, I would have felt like I had to vote for her. For the sake of the people living there. I'll have to love her. But if she had offered just that. So, I mean, we're an example of what that poll reflects. Now, I want to point this out. Because this is the kind of shit that every time somebody like Kamala runs, these are the kind of morons that you saw at the DNC chair election that picked that avatar of political astuteness, Ken Martin, as its chair. You all tell your kids to find black women in public if they get lost, but you draw the line at black women running for elected office. Jasmine Crockett isn't a bad candidate. Kamala Harris wasn't a bad candidate. You just don't believe black women belong in positions of power. Now, this is where they love to keep the conversation, because as long as you're having this conversation, you're not talking about policy. You're not talking about Gavin Newsom emphatically refusing to have a wealth tax because we need a big tent. We need to have all those millions and millions of Americans who want unfettered wealth and corporations running their government. Yeah, they need to be well represented. All those steel workers who feel that way. So here's Jasmine Crockett.
To go around the country and educate people about what immigrants do for this country, or the fact that we are a country of immigrants.
Right.
The fact is, ain't none of y'all trying to go and farm right now. Okay, so I'm lying. Raise your hands. You're not. We done picking cotton. We are. You can't pay us enough to find a plantation.
I know that's right.
So at a moment where Trump's support with Latinos is collapsing, Jasmine Crockett, who's running for Senate in Texas, thought the best framing on immigration would be black people are done picking cotton, so you better not get rid of these immigrants. How about Kamala? How about Kamala's political skills? Here she is bragging about arresting parents for their children's truancy. She thinks it's really funny.
So I decided I was going to start prosecuting parents for truancy. Well, this was a little controversial in San Francisco. And frankly, my staff went bananas. They were very concerned because we didn't know at the time whether I was going to have an opponent in my re-election race.
Hilarious.
Or whether or not that's legal, it might not be legal.
It might not be legal to hold the parents accountable. All right, so I'm going to offer this for anyone who might think this way, and we do get people pop up in the comments once in a while who will take these kind of points of view. So you would agree that no really quality, honest person can make it through the Democratic Party, right? Because it's too corrupt. Like, you're not going to get good people. You don't think that applies to all the people in the Democratic Party? If anything, I will even agree with you on the systemic racism. I think you have to be one of the worst when you have that kind of a disadvantage. Yeah, I do think it's a disadvantage. I think that's why you only get the most craven, disgusting, corrupt people of those identities who the party wants to promote. They have to eat extra shit. Like, you want to make that argument? I absolutely agree with that. I absolutely agree that they have to be a servant to power and be willing to be tokenized in the way that the party wants to tokenize them. And people of character are not going to do that. So you wind up with these people who are just as bad, just as corrupt as the old straight white men that they're theoretically displacing. They love a Barack and a Michelle. They love that because that allows them to give the illusion of progress without the substance of progress. If they can get people like that to push the same exact agenda as any Gavin Newsom would push, they love that. They prefer it, actually, because then they can hide. They can hide behind that person's identity. So anybody who's going to go around and talk about, oh, it's about hating black women, then the donor class loves nothing more than to do the same shit they do behind a Joe Biden, behind a Kamala Harris. That's why they've been trying to make her happen for 10 years. They will not let the fact that this woman has no political talent be an impediment. They just will not fucking let it go. Does that seem like people who don't want her? They love her. She's an empty vessel that they can hide their agenda behind. They love people like that. Now I am going to feature, because you know what? He's a longtime supporter of the show. Took me to Iron Maiden, and you know what? When we went to Iron Maiden, and let's keeping it real, as Kamala would say. We both thought that Trump was just too toxic, and that Kamala was actually going to win. We got fooled by some of the polling. We definitely fell for that Iowa poll. But my friend Motley Jew, when we were at Iron Maiden, he was like, "What, are you crazy? Are you crazy? There's absolutely no way." And, he turned out to be right. So let's give him his due. Bookmark this shit. Kamala Harris will never run for office again unless she's unopposed. She is a terrible politician, and the donor class knows it. Thus speaketh the Motley Jew. He says it's all smoke and mirrors. There's no way she's going to get the nod from the party for a serious run at anything. They're not going to give her the support. I mean, I think he's saying she won't even get like enough support to get into the primary.
Yeah, I think what he's saying is she won't enter unless she knows it's going to be rigged for her, and that they're not going to rig it for her, which is possible. Now, the move she's making now may be her pitch to the party bosses to back her again. I do not believe Kamala Harris is going to be the nominee. I'm still not sold on the idea that Newsom is going to be the nominee. I still think it's probably someone who we're not talking about. What makes Newsom
good chance of that. Yeah.
What makes Newsom slightly more plausible now than he was a year ago is that the Trump brand has tanked so quickly that I think Newsom's electability argument is a little stronger than it was 1 year ago. Like 1 year ago, I think people would have seen Newsom as a non-starter because of all the baggage that California brings versus, Vance, who's from Ohio. But I think the Trump brand has tanked so much that I think Newsom is a little more plausible as someone who can win than he was a year ago. So that raises his stock price a little bit. But I'm still not sold on any of the people that are being sort of pumped up right now. And this is why. I mean, Kamala Harris is so obviously a non-starter. And look, this was the bed she made when she, attached herself to the Joe Biden ticket. I mean, you were vice president at a time where the president was extraordinarily unpopular. You ran as a status quo candidate to succeed his first term. And she was obviously rejected. And so in terms of the people, that's that. And in terms of, it being about her race, I don't think there was a pundit in America, black, white, or I think most people were on board with the idea that Michelle Obama would have made a very formidable general election candidate. She was extremely popular. She's extremely charismatic. I don't think that's really true now. She seems to be genuinely angry at the country to the point where her heart's not in it. I don't know if you can run a campaign if your heart's not in it. So I wouldn't make that argument for her now. But at the time, yes, she was a very formidable candidate. I think someone like an Ayanna Pressley, I think policy-wise, they're too much into the identitarian progressive woke stuff. So I think policy-wise, she would have a tough time. But she's a formidable person. Like, she's a formidable candidate. She's a pro. I didn't say she's a terrible candidate. So, no, it's not. Of course, it's not about the fact that these are black women. It's about the fact that Kamala Harris had her chance and blew it. And Jasmine Crockett, I mean, that just tells you your instincts. At a time when Latinos are coming back into the Democratic Party, you liken them to slaves and say that's why we need them here, because black people aren't slaves anymore, so we need Latino slaves. I mean, that is just shockingly inept. And Kamala Harris is nothing if not shockingly inept.
Yep.
All right. Let's go to some Rumble rants over here. Nocturnal Human says the math deaths coming from destroyed healthcare will be blamed on the fentanyl. Same way COVID was blamed for every death under Biden. Well, the death is going to be just the beginning of it, and the death won't be the most notable part of it. What's going to increase are medical bankruptcies and just a total economic collapse when people have to spend. Even the people who will even the people who will find a way to afford to pay for the healthcare premiums, they're going to have a lot less money to spend on everything else. So it's going to be a major drag on everybody.
Through the economy.
Of course. Hummer TLS. Is there one bougie country club Fox News Republican that sincerely gives a damn about one person that has OD'd on fentanyl? Don't think so. What a ridiculous narrative. Yeah, I agree. Vianticus Prime, funny you guys compare Chili's to a real Mexican place. No, I was saying I was at a real Mexican place, not Chili's. I was in Mexico for work about 18 years ago. Only chain was a Chili's. I was the only one who remembered enough Spanish to order. Yeah, no, my point was, no, I didn't go to Chili's. I went to a real Mexican place, not Chili's. Eric Rousseau. So social media post now represents what is government transparency? Do we get to ratio them as well? Yes, good point. I want to see a MAGA newlywed game. Thank you, Eric Rousseau. The deal, Kash Patel and his significant other in the hullabaloo with the Akash Singh and what's-her-face seem awfully similar. Thank you, Vianticus. Eric Rousseau says a person can be smart, but people are stupid. P.W. Walker says, we're such a big tent party, progressives are welcome to be betrayed. Yes, we'll knife them all in the back the first chance we get. Thank you, P. Walker. Appreciate that. All right, you got some super chats over there?
Sure do. Xander Vorka from Woke DEI Director J. Edgar Hoover to a podcast host. The FBI is a joke. Listen, man, Dan Bongino doesn't seem like the kind of guy who puts on a dress. Cash sure does.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Sparky, Kash Patel fronts as a modern Indian intellectual. He's actually a mentally challenged Romani. Is he? Kuznetsky Bassane, donor class billionaires while pulling their own hair out. What do we pay these crackpots for? They can't get anything right. They're very happy. I think they're very happy. They're getting a free hand while the peasants have a food fight. It's exactly what they wanted out of Trump. Sparky, I think most of not all of the this is what I voted for MAGA people posting on social media are bots. Yep. MAGA is much worse off than President Trump and many in his administration thinks. I agree with you. It's a panopticon. It's a fake conversation that draws in some vulnerable actual people, but most of it's fake. Shaney O'Foldstones. So can you guys cut the shit and call the show Jew Dissidents? The time is now, gentlemen. We leave it to others to call it that. And they do. Four Trees. Hey, fellas, Russ has the best DJT impersonation. This administration is filled with freaks and weirdos. Trump and Miriam's 15-inch dildo and RFK the Felcher is two examples. Well, you know what my inspiration on the Trump thing is? If you go back to original Saturday Night Live, they didn't do the whole makeup thing like Chevy Chase did Gerald Ford. He didn't do a Ford impersonation. They didn't even do any makeup on him. Like the whole thing was just him being clumsy, like doing slapstick.
Right.
Like he didn't try to do a Ford impersonation. And then when Dan Aykroyd, and this is more where I'm drawing it from, when Dan Aykroyd started doing Nixon, he didn't try to do a perfect Nixon. He was, I believe, according to one of the Saturday Night Live books, he was tripping. And he was like, Nixon is all arms. He's all arms. And if you look at his Nixon, that's what he wound up doing with him.
Right.
Yes, and we used to have this thing. It was called cereal. Right? So he did the essence of Nixon without trying to do a pitch perfect impersonation of him. Get your dental work done in Vietnam. I'm looking at Bangkok. It's kind of known for it. I'm in touch with a dental hospital there right now. They need my x-rays. It's a whole thing. Zandor Vorkov. Why does Kamala sound like her speeches are written by Ed Wood? The future is where you and I will spend the rest of our lives. That's pretty good. Four Trees. Kama Sutra Harris needs to go back to living down south, mouth hugs under the desk. Well, she probably still does that. Not with Doug, I would imagine. Iranian kiddo, that cackle nails on a chalkboard. It sure is.
Indeed.
All right. Well, still got a little more scroll to get through.
Yeah, a little more scroll. So these are read one more.
Andy Gardner, big favor. Can you guys redo everything the last 2 hours? Just take it from the top and go way back so I know you'll do it.
There you go.
Yeah.
Missed the show today. Well, you're catching up. You're catching up. We got a couple more pieces to go. And hey, if you like what we do here, folks, you know how to help us do more. Go to dodissidents.com/Patreon//Substack or /Locals. Membership starts at just $5 a month. Perks include call-in access to our Q&As, film club live streams, bonus live stream content once a month, and of course, you get your name up in lights on the patron scroll. We also, of course, for our members, we email you an ad-free version of every live stream the day after it airs publicly. So those are the perks. Starts at just $5 a month. You guys are the backbone of the show, so thank you all very, very much, of course, for your support. Those are the links, dodissidents.com/Patreon//Substack or /Locals. Okay, we will move right on along here. All right, folks. So big healthcare news today. Just a sort of brief condensed rundown of how we got here. This was over the end of last week. The Senate rejects extension of healthcare subsidies as costs are set to rise for millions of Americans. The Senate on Thursday rejected legislation to extend Affordable Care Act tax credits, essentially guaranteeing that millions of Americans will see a steep rise in costs at the beginning of the year. As Republicans and Democrats have failed to find compromise, senators voted on two partisan bills instead that they knew would fail: the Democratic bill to extend the subsidies and a Republican alternative that would have created new health savings accounts. Senate Majority Leader John Thune, Republican from South Dakota, said ahead of the vote that Democrats' simple extension of the subsidies is an attempt to disguise the real impact of Obamacare's spiraling healthcare costs. Yeah, people understand that Obamacare did not get costs under control, and they understand that the subsidies are a Band-Aid. But you know what? The alternative to a Band-Aid is you bleed out. Right? So like this all that, well, they just don't want to admit Obamacare. No, people understand Obamacare sucks. They understand it sucks less than not having the subsidies. Right?
Yeah.
But Democrats immediately rejected the GOP plan, saying that the accounts wouldn't be enough to cover costs for most consumers. Yeah, more on these health savings accounts now, which they're trying to push on people. This, you talk about a scam. Okay, so here is Center for Budget and Policy Priorities did a report on this last month. Expanding health savings accounts would do little to improve access to affordable health care. Well, why is that? Here it is. Health savings accounts are accounts in which people enrolled in high deductible health plans can elect to transfer pre-tax dollars into an account that they can withdraw from tax-free to pay for what? Certain out-of-pocket health expenses. Enrollees cannot pay premiums using HSA funds. So in other words, you're not allowed to use the health savings account money to pay for your health insurance. You can only use it to pay for out-of-pocket costs not covered by your health insurance. Now, what kind of sense does that make on any terms? The only people who can afford to set aside extra money into a health savings account are people who can probably afford premiums. And if they can't afford premiums, then what? They save for a rainy day when what? An out-of-pocket expense comes up. These out-of-pocket expenses could be 40, 50 grand. A $1,500 health savings account that you can then add money to. Who has the money? Who has tens of thousands of dollars to put into a health savings account that they can't just spend on health insurance premiums? It's a complete scam. HSAs provide the biggest benefits to people who can afford to contribute large sums into the accounts and who are in higher marginal income tax brackets. In other words, people who are more likely to get health insurance through their employers in the first place, or people who are best suited to afford high-priced premiums. The accounts are triple tax advantaged. Contributions lower taxable income. People can invest HSA funds and accrue earnings tax-free. Okay, so this idea that a health savings account is any kind of solution at all is complete garbage, which makes this tweet even worse because Donald Trump says, I'm recommending to Senate Republicans that the hundreds of billions of dollars currently being sent to money-sucking insurance companies in order to save the bad health care provided by Obamacare be sent directly to the people so that they can purchase their own much better health care and have money left over. In other words, take from the big bad insurance companies, give it to the people, and terminate per dollar spent the worst health care anywhere in the world, Obamacare. So we at the time thought, well, that really makes no sense because we're taking money from the insurance companies by foregoing the subsidies, but we're giving it to the people to buy healthcare. We assumed he meant because the health savings account is an even dumber idea. We assumed he was talking about, well, aren't you just going to spend that money on healthcare? Isn't that money going right back to the insurance companies? No, apparently we were wrong about that. The reason we were wrong about that is because the plan is unfathomably stupid. It's actually much dumber and much worse than we thought. He means, no, you're going to put it in a savings account so you can give it directly to who? The hospital who bills you 30 grand for an overnight stay in the ER? That's what. So in other words, you can't use the health savings account money for insurance. You have to just pay out of pocket for insanely overpriced care, quote unquote. Excuse me. So here's John Thune last week. Later today, the U.S. Senate will vote on giving health care money directly to the people, talking about these health savings accounts.
Make sure that the Republicans are putting out there what it is that we are for. And we are for putting more money in the pockets of the American people so they can make their decisions about their health care coverage instead of giving it to the insurance companies, paid for by the taxpayers, with no income limits, so people make $500,000, $600,000 a year, having their health insurance subsidized by people who are making $40,000 or $50,000 a year. That's what the Democrat proposal does. And there are $0 premiums. A lot of people have no idea they're even covered, so the insurance companies auto-enroll them because they're incentivized to do that. And so the costs keep going up. Insurance premiums keep going up in the individual marketplace on the Obama exchanges. That's got to stop. What we're going to do today, Dana, is put a proposal on the floor that the Congressional Budget Office actually has determined reduces by double digits insurance premiums. That's what this ought to be about. If it's really about affordability, let's focus on affordability and driving down insurance premiums. What the Democrats are doing is continuing to drive them up and giving the money to the insurance companies.
Again, nobody believes this. Nobody believes this because here in a chart debunked what he just said. So the GOP plan comparison today, a silver plan with the subsidies, the gross premium is $20,000, right? Now under the GOP plan, because they're not subsidized, technically that premium would be lowered to $14,500. So that's what John Thune is saying. See, we're lowering premiums. What he's not telling you is that under the current model, 15 of that 20 grand would come from the government, not from the consumer. So yeah, the insurance companies technically here are making 20 instead of 14.5, but the cost to the consumer is significantly lower because 15 of that 20 grand comes from the government, no health savings account deposit, average out-of-pocket spend $3 grand, which makes the total annual cost $8,000. So under this plan now, without the subsidies, it becomes a bronze plan for $14,500. They give you $2 grand for a health savings account deposit, average out-of-pocket spend $3,000, and because there's no subsidy, the total annual cost to the consumer, $15,500. So even though the top line premium is technically less, the consumer is paying significantly more. Again, you just can't bullshit people about this because people are too intimately aware of how badly they're being fucked by the healthcare system, which it goes beyond just the insurance companies. So the Senate voted 51-48 not to move forward on the Democratic bill, with 4 Republicans, Susan Collins, Josh Hawley, and both Alaska Senators Murkowski and Dan Sullivan voting with Democrats. Dan Sullivan's up for re-election 2026, and a lot of the polls have it pretty close up there in Alaska. The legislation needed 60 votes to proceed, as did the Republican bill, which was also blocked 51-48. So now it's in the House's court. After failure in the Senate, House GOP has its own health care proposal. After the Senate failed to advance bills to address health care costs this week, House Republicans released and proposed legislation late Friday that would not extend enhanced ACA tax subsidies, but would make other changes party leaders insist will improve Americans' access to health care. Friday's proposal from House Republicans include measures that would allow small businesses to join together to buy insurance plans for their employees and put in place new requirements for pharmacy benefit managers in an effort to lower drug costs.
Well, that'll fix it.
But yeah, that'll fix it. House Republicans are tackling the real drivers of healthcare costs to provide affordable care, increase access and choice, and restore integrity to our nation's healthcare system for all Americans, Johnson said in a statement. Democratic House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries blasted the proposal Saturday. Mike Johnson just released a toxic Republican health care plan that hurts everyday Americans, Jeffries wrote on X. It fails to extend the ACA tax credits that expire this month and is a deeply unserious proposal. The Republicans' plan in the Senate included a proposal for people to get up to $1,500 in health savings accounts for Americans earning less than 700% of the federal poverty level, but the House Republican proposal does not include that language. So they know that's a loser, so they've stripped that. Meanwhile, some Republicans have warned that ending ACA subsidies could cost their party the midterm elections, citing worried communications from their constituents. A number of Republicans in the House are seeking ways to extend subsidies, including by working to force a vote on the House floor over the objections of party leaders. Well, the breaking news today, folks, was that Hail Mary landed on the ground and was unsuccessful because breaking as of right before showtime, House Republican leaders ditch vote on ACA funding, all but ensuring premiums will rise. Here's Mike Johnson taking some heat for that, trying to explain himself.
Mike Lawler said that it was political malpractice to not allow a vote on the ACA subsidy extension this week. What's your reaction to that? And will Republicans suffer any political blowback for not allowing something like that to come to the
I understand Mike Lawler's from the Hudson Valley. He's in a swing district. I would bet he's almost certainly going to lose, which is why he's saying, hey, we better think twice before we just move ahead and let these subsidies expire. And his constituents are on the upper end of the income scale. It's like Westchester County or, so someplace like that. Maybe Rockland, the other side of the river, wherever. But it's close to New York City, wealthy suburban area. And even he's like, yeah, this is going to be unsurvivable.
Well, Mike Lawler is a very dear friend and a close colleague of mine. And ironically, weekend before last, I was in New York in his district on Long Island, and we were campaigning together, ensuring that he gets reelected. Mike Lawler fights hard for New York, as every Republican in this conference does for their districts. The districts are different. They have different priorities and ideas, but we do have, there's about a dozen members in the conference that are in these swing districts who are fighting hard to make sure that they reduce costs for all of their constituents. And many of them did want to vote on this Obamacare, COVID era subsidy the Democrats created. We looked for a way to try to allow for that pressure release.
Yeah, saying COVID like it's this magic culture war buzzword that's going to neutralize opposition to extending the ACA subsidies, that's not going to work. That's not going to work.
Valve, and it just was not to be. We worked on it all the way through the weekend, in fact, and in the end, there was not an agreement, wasn't made. Now, everybody was at the table in good faith, and I certainly appreciate the views and the opinions of every member of this conference, but I will tell you one thing they will all join in unity on is voting for this bill that we've been discussing this morning, because, again, instead of just trying to assist 7% of Americans, this is for 100% of Americans, and we can handle that and do that together. I hope that Democrats will come along with us. If they're serious about solving the problem and bringing down cost of health care, they'll all fully support it as well. But I think you're going to see they're playing politics with this.
They're playing politics with it.
Playing politics. Okay, so here's a reality check. And these videos are all over TikTok. Here's what Americans are actually looking at in terms of healthcare costs.
Into this health insurance disaster that's about to happen in 2026. Over here is my 2025 plan, and by the way, these are the same plan. They have the same name, supposedly the same coverage. Look at the difference between this year and what I'm supposed to be paying next year. So first off, monthly premium at $3,000. I'm not paying that. Nobody's paying. Who can pay that? So if I had to use this insurance and I had to use it all the way up to where I got past my $12,000 deductible, I would end up paying $50,000, over $50,000 in the year of 2026 for health insurance. If by some miracle we never had to go to the doctor, just for the privilege of having this insurance, I would end up paying $36,000, over $36,000 in 2026. This is going to be unsustainable for most Americans. You can see I had a $0 deductible. It goes to $6,000 individually, $12,000. So this would be considered a catastrophic high deductible plan, but instead of paying like $500 a month, you're paying $3,000 a month. People that make just over the limit to be able to qualify their kids for Medicaid, but don't make enough to pay $3,000 a month, it's probably going to be between 10 and 20 million people in this country. So my question is, what kind of impact is this going to have on our economy and on our healthcare system? Because I'm not paying that. I'm going to have to cross my fingers, and my family of 5, we're just going to have to hope and pray that we have great health through this year. And if we do get sick, we're going to have to pay out of pocket. And if it's something major, we're going to have to go to the emergency room. So is this going to cause 20 million people to overload our ERs? Is it going to drive healthcare costs up? What are these bills going to look like? Is it going to cause an increase in personal bankruptcies because these bills are going to be so high when you go into the ER? What's going to happen here? What is the impact that this is going to have on the economy of the United States and our healthcare system? By the way, in South Carolina on the marketplace, we only have really one insurance company now. There's 2, but really only one that offers a bunch of plans. There's no competition. This is what you get to choose. If you can't choose this, you have nothing. Let me know in the comments what you think is going to happen from all of this.
Well, what's going to happen from all of this is a total economic catastrophe. It's beyond, okay, if you're one of these short-sighted people who says, well, I get my health insurance through my employer, so this doesn't affect me. First of all, it will, because the number of people who are going to opt out of insurance altogether is going to shrink the pool of those who are insured. The way insurance works is the smaller the pool, the more everybody has to pay into the pool, right? So I believe this will drive up costs for everybody in terms of their health insurance. Even if you are able to afford your health insurance, look at what he's talking about there. He's talking about people like himself and his family having to forego health insurance. If they have an emergency, they're going to have to get it taken care of at an ER. If that invoice is unpayable, there goes what? His family goes bankrupt. What happens to the house? What happens to all of the money that they are usually able to spend elsewhere? It doesn't get spent. This is not survivable. It's not survivable. And this is why I said on the last show, as much as, Jasmine Crockett feels like a non-starter, no Democrat is a non-starter when this happens. This is not a politically survivable event. This is why the Republicans this is why the frontline Republicans, which is political speak for, candidates in swing districts. This is why they tried to avoid this, but they're not able to. They're not able to. This is a disaster, the likes of which we have not seen since 2008. Since 2008, that can be just around the corner. I'm not saying it will be as big as 2008, but I think it will be the most cataclysmic event since 08. I mean, COVID, obviously, that's the huge one. But I don't know which politicians were at the Wuhan lab, so I don't know who to blame on that exactly. But so certainly, like the biggest political crisis that this system just produced organically, due to its own shortcomings and flaws. That's what's coming next year. That's what's coming next year.
Yeah. This is the natural end of Reaganomics, man. It's like this is the end point. Eventually, they came up with a politics on both sides, really, that is really about vibes, because they never intended to actually do anything for people. That's been the case for a very long time. There was a certain political calculation before that they had to do some things. I mean, George Bush expanded drug coverage in Medicare, right? Like there was some sense that you got to do something for people, even though in the end they served their donors then as well. This is like the pure heroin version of trickle-down economics. And did they ever really believe that trickle-down economics worked? I mean, I don't think anybody's really believed that in a pretty long time. It's like a test of how far can you go with a kind of like half-baked libertarian ethos of total lack of government support for the peasants. How far can you take that and give them beating up empanada salespeople on corners in exchange and have them stay on your side? How far can you push that? And of course, anyone who's really going to subscribe to a politics like that are probably pretty stupid, because even if you are just a cold, cutthroat kind of a person, you got to understand, like, you want the pitchforks, this is how you get the pitchforks. A lot of these people who throw crumbs out there to the masses, it's for that reason. It's not out of altruism, it's self-protection. What did FDR say? I'm not trying to end capitalism, I'm trying to save it.
They're trying to save it.
Right?
Exactly.
You got to be pretty damn stupid to even subscribe to the ideology that they have. And this is the final iteration of it, the final inevitable iteration of it. How much can we keep people on our side with just raw bigotry, rage bait, and hate, while stripping them of every last entitlement?
Yep, 100%. All right, let's go to some Rumble Rants. Eric Rousseau, it's a big bag and we must make room for all dollars. That's right. Stoop sign, should have just run the Tim Walz last time. White guy taco night hasn't killed any Palestinians. There you go. Mark Pugliese, in case you don't mention it, Crockett's accent is put on, according to Savvy. We covered that. We just did a Crockett video.
She went to one of the most exclusive high schools in the country, $35,000 a year.
Yep. Star reporter Benny Johnson broke that story.
Yes, he did. Yeah.
Just now, watch Trump.
He outed her.
Yeah, exactly. He outed her as Congress ignites Article 2, Section 4 removal crisis on YouTube. Thank you, Eric. Virtuoso, if you won't vote for me, you ain't Latino. Jasmine Crockett, thank you. All right, so let's go to some super chats.
All right. Truth Seeker. I know it goes without saying that Trump lies, but fentanyl does not kill 200,000 per year. Total ODs per year is about 100,000. And of those, about 70,000 are fentanyl. A horrible tragedy, of course, but not worth a war. Yeah, wait till you see how many people die of preventable causes when they lose their health care this year.
Right.
It's going to make fentanyl look mild by comparison. Race car. Does it feel like the news cycle has been supercharged with events the past couple months?
Yeah, you're telling me.
Yeah, I think it's like it's burning out people's nervous systems, man. It's like too much.
Yeah.
Like this week has been just.
Yeah.
Sparky, check out Chinese Trump. I've heard about that. He's good-natured about it. Trump actually would like him. He's on YouTube. I don't know. I don't know about that, but yes, I have heard about that. Race car. Sorry, heard a great quote. This is a cash and carry world. Sometimes you pay a little, but most of the time it's a lot, and sometimes it's all you have. Storm of the Century miniseries, 1999. Yeah, man. I mean, the more I look into, because I might be making use of the overseas healthcare system. I mean, I will be, whether,
right.
In one way or another, even, vaccines. It's just not like this other places.
No.
I've told this story before. This tells you a lot culturally. I've never been to a place that is so intent on extracting money from people as the United States. It's not normal. It's not like this other places.
Right.
When I was in Italy, so, being obsessed with ruins, of course, Pompeii, I didn't want to leave. So I didn't leave until I would have had to fucking sleep in the amphitheater if I didn't get out. I left as the latest you could get out of there. And by the time I caught my train, there was no way I was catching my connecting train back to Rome. And it was like going out in 10 minutes, the train that I had to catch. So I assumed I lost my money, or at best, I was going to have to pay a change fee to change that ticket. I called Trenitalia, their train company. At first, no one spoke English. They found me someone who spoke English with 5 minutes left until my train goes out. Changed my train to the next train. No charge.
Yeah, no charge.
No charge. And as an American, I just assumed I was fucked, because that's what they would do to you here.
Right.
There's
Exactly.
absolutely no way they would do that for you here. No way.
Right.
That's a mindset, and it's not healthy. It's part of why people here are fucking miserable. The vibe you get from people, other places, I haven't been every place. I have never been in a country that had such bad juju as America. I'm not saying there's no place like, I haven't been in conflict zones. I'm sure I'm not saying there's no place worse. Of advanced industrialized countries, I would wager there's no place that has a bad vibe like the United States does, and that's a big part of it.
All right, got one more segment to go.
All right, so we are going to continue coverage on Bondi Beach. Most of you know the details, just to let you know where it's at in terms of the horrible death toll. It's from the New York Times. What to know about the victims of the Bondi Beach shooting. At least 15 people were killed in the attack in Sydney, Australia, including a 10-year-old girl, a long-serving rabbi, and a Holocaust survivor. Now, as we mentioned when we covered this on Rumble the other night, my wife was actually on Bondi Beach at that time, soon to be ex-wife, still very, very dear friend, one of the closest people to me. I don't know what I would have done if something had happened to her. But fortunately, it didn't. She had to run into an apartment with other people. Somebody opened up and let them into the apartment. She's from Bondi Beach. So yeah, just a horrible incident, of course. Here's the latest as of going to air. The gunmen behind the mass shooting at a Jewish celebration in Sydney were motivated by Islamic State ideology, Australia's leader said on Tuesday. Investigators said that the police had found 2 homemade Islamic State flags in the car that the suspects, a 50-year-old man and his 24-year-old son, drove to the site of the massacre on Sunday. The police also recovered improvised explosive devices in the car, the authorities said. Quote, radical perversion of Islam is absolutely a problem, Prime Minister Anthony Albanese said at a news conference. So Albanese, kind of reminiscent of George Bush after 9/11, trying to turn down the Islamophobia from what I have seen. But Benji's not going to like that. He's not going to like that. Who does he want to blame? He doesn't even want to blame Islam. He wants to blame Australia for wanting to recognize a Palestinian state and other states in the West that want to recognize a Palestinian state. Here he is.
On August 17th, about 4 months ago, I sent Prime Minister Albanese of Australia a letter in which I gave him warning that the Australian government's policy was promoting and encouraging anti-Semitism in Australia. I wrote, your call for a Palestinian state pours fuel on the anti-Semitic fire. It rewards Hamas terrorism. It emboldens those who menace Australian Jews and encourages the Jew hatred now stalking your streets. Anti-Semitism is a cancer. It spreads when leaders stay silent. It retreats when leaders act. I call upon you to replace weakness with action, appeasement with resolve. Instead, Prime Minister, you replaced weakness with weakness and appeasement with more appeasement. Your government did nothing to stop the spread of anti-Semitism in Australia. You did nothing to curb the cancer cells that were growing inside your country. You took no action. You let the disease spread. And the result is the horrific attacks on Jews we saw today. We saw an action of a brave man, turns out a Muslim brave man, and I salute him, that stopped one of these terrorists from killing innocent Jews. But it requires the action of your government, which you're not taking. And you have to, because history will not forgive hesitation and weakness. It will honor action and strength. That's what Israel expects of each of your governments in the West and elsewhere, because the disease spreads and it will consume you as well. But we are worrying right now about our people, our safety, and we do not remain silent.
Okay. Got it. It's your fault. It's your fault for recognizing the humanity of Palestinian children. So this is from DD Geopolitics. There were no condolences, no expression of solidarity, only political coercion using a domestic Australian tragedy as leverage. There is zero evidence linking the Bondi attack to Australia's diplomatic position, and yet Netanyahu frames a lone attacker as the consequence of Western governments refusing to align with him. It gets worse. Mossad has now entered the Bondi investigation. Israel is inserting itself directly into an internal Australian case while its prime minister publicly blames Australia for the attack. Ask yourself, since when does a foreign leader get to publicly shame a Western government for its democratic foreign policy? Since when is a domestic terror investigation handed influence from a foreign intelligence service? And why is he blaming Australians instead of the attacker? Netanyahu's message to the West is follow our political line or your citizens will die, and it will be your fault. That crosses every line of respect between sovereign states and sounds like a direct threat. The fact more Westerners are not furious at this level of intrusion and manipulation is astonishing. Really, in fairness, I think most of us are pretty furious. It's the media class and the political class that is owned by the APAC class that is not furious. I think most people are furious at this point.
Yeah, and I should just point out, if Islamic State ideology was motivating the shooters here, there are several well-established, fault lines and points of division between ISIS and the pro-Palestine cause.
Well,
even between ISIS and Hamas.
Right.
I don't want to list them all here, but ISIS are Sunni aligned, Hamas is seen as
Right.
Shiite aligned because of its ties to Iran.
Right. Yeah.
We can get into that. We can go on and on about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's inconvenient to the narrative, Keen.
Yeah. But,
Shadow of Ezra. Mossad has officially joined the investigation today to assist Australian authorities following the terrorist attack. The agency will examine who carried out the attack, whether anyone directed or supported the attackers, and if it was a lone wolf operation. Mossad will also focus on determining whether Iran or Hezbollah had any involvement in the attacks. So this is from Israeli TV. These freaking guys speak so goddamn fast, man. They're all on blow. I'm serious. They all talk like they're coked up in a bathroom. Israeli intelligence agencies investigating the Mossad are involved in investigating the attack in Sydney to determine if anyone is behind the attackers, who carried out the attack, or if it is what is called lone attackers who set out one morning to carry out an attack without any organization backing. In the first stage, what we understand is that this is about all the options that are on the table. That is to say, it is about a local organization. Either Iran is behind these attackers, or as the informant mentioned to you earlier today, the possibility that Hezbollah is behind these terrorists is being... That is to say, right now, we really need to say all possibilities are being checked, including the possibility that Iran and Hezbollah are behind these attacks. Okay. All right. So it's from our friend Misty Winston. So a massive red flag that law enforcement look for when investigating crimes is to look for people who insert themselves into the investigation when they don't need to be there. Just saying. Yes. It's very astute, Misty.
Yep.
And of course, suspicion falls on Iran. Wouldn't have seen that coming. Israeli intelligence identifies Tehran as prime suspect in Sydney Hanukkah massacre. Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense for them right now. That makes a lot of sense. That's what they're going to do right now. There's Natalie Morris. We should ask why Mossad is involved in this investigation at all. This attack had nothing to do with Israel. It was an attack on Australians on Australian soil. Israel claims responsibility for Jews worldwide, but that claim has no legal or jurisdictional basis. This would be like an African country investigating the Buffalo, New York supermarket shooting because the victims were black. This story is tragic enough without a foreign government stepping in to help while shaping the narrative. And notice how suspicion is immediately pointed at Iran without evidence. May have been Iran, possible links, hallmarks of Iran, Iran likely to be behind. And not to be outdone, here's the New York Times, is Linda Mamoun. Only the New York Times would print a headline this twisted. Oh, I don't know about that. There are a few others. Bondi Beach has nothing to do with the Palestinian struggle, and to say it does is journalistic malpractice.
Exactly.
As Brett Stevens, Bondi Beach is what globalized the Intifada looks like. There were quite a few headlines.
Yeah, if you're a low IQ racist, because I mean, if they're saying this was an ISIS-inspired attack, that gives away the game right there. I mean, this was not a Palestinian-oriented attack. It just wasn't.
Right.
If you just see all Arabs as animals, I guess you would frame it that way, which is what Brett Stevens. That's how Brett Stevens feels.
Well, of course, but it's not just Brett Stevens. It's really the media generally.
Oh, sure, of course, yeah.
And this went viral of a very based Australian woman not taking the bait when she gets asked a very leading question about anti-Semitism.
The horror of anti-Semitism has been unleashed in Australia, and it hasn't been properly dealt with by authorities. And this is where we are now.
You know, I don't want to blame anyone tonight other than the people that perpetrated this horror on our community. No one else is to blame. And I don't want to get into that tonight because we have a community that is in shock, that is grieving. You know, I'm in shock. And
Good for her. Good for her. She saw where that was going. She was like, no, you're not gonna use me to push that kind of rhetoric. And of course, let's not forget that the person who took down one of the shooters was actually a Muslim. There's the Prime Minister of Australia visiting him. He tweeted this out. Ahmed, you were an Australian hero. You put yourself at risk to save others running toward danger on Bondi Beach and disarming a terrorist. In the worst of times, we see the best of Australians, and that's exactly what we saw on Sunday night. On behalf of every Australian, I say thank you. Here's a little bit of that.
Think you've got your heart is strong. Think your courage is inspiring. Think you've got much.
So, look, you know, good on him that he seems to be going out of his way to try to turn down the temperature on this rhetoric. But if you look at the way this is playing out in the media, I'm sure you have all noticed that it's been one suspiciously false flag-ish news story after another over the last 4 days or so. From LA, there was something from India, supposedly a plot foiled, and these came in the wake of Bondi Beach. Is Max Blumenthal. Israel is attempting to blame Iran again for a mass shooting apparently carried out by a couple of Salafists allied with ISIS, an enemy of Iran, which has never confronted Israel. But there's a much deeper story here. And he shared this out. There's an older video. Last February, Max Blumenthal explained how Australia was hit with a suspicious wave of anti-Jewish incidents carried out by paid actors, and how an Israeli team phoned in anonymous threats to Australian Jewish centers. Israeli intel ultimately coerced Canberra to blame Iran. Let's take a look at some of that video.
Out that Israeli teen, whose name was Michael Kadar, was also using robocalls to target Australian institutions. 590 plus bomb threats in Australia. Schools, Jewish centers, hospitals, and airlines. This is a great section from the Guardian report on Michael Kadar. The teen, identified in U.S. court documents as Michael Kadar, despite a suppression order against revealing his identity in Israel. Why wouldn't we want to know his identity? Was arrested last month by Israeli police. And he was arrested after he wasn't found out by the Israeli police. It was due to an investigation by the Five Eyes, and I think primarily Australia. A spokeswoman for Victoria Police said Israeli police who made the arrest acknowledged that they could not have done it without us. So it was the Victoria Police e-crime squad, not Israel, that caught this teen. So what's going on here? What's going on in Australia? Who are the paid actors? Who are they being paid by? And why would this, what's the ultimate objective here? And could this be limited to Australia? Or has this been taking place in other Western countries since October 7th? Is it anti-Semitic to point a finger at the one settler colonial state that benefits from anti-Semitism, that justifies its existence on the proliferation of global anti-Semitism, and which has historically exploited the plight of Jews around the world for its own benefit? I don't know. We'll keep following that investigation. I think it's always important to highlight stories that are on the public record but aren't getting adequate attention, especially as we enter a Trump era where the Republican Congress and Trump administration are going to milk the anti-Semitism freak out to actually criminalize Palestine solidarity activism in a way we have never seen before.
Yeah, he called that, and that's exactly what you've been seeing this week. You have the Stop Anti-Semitism woman gave a speech that went viral talking about how they're going to track down all the anti-Semites, which of course anti-Semites means you speak out against Israel by definition for these people. Miss Rachel is an anti-Semite for these people. A little more from Max. I've been making this point repeatedly for the past 2 years, and now that it's finally happened, Zionist fanatics are proving it. After a mass shooting targeting Jews in Australia, they are focusing their wrath on Zoran Mamdani, on Palestine solidarity activism, on Iran, on any force that threatens Israeli apartheid, rather than on the actual killers who appear to be ISIS sympathizers granted firearms licenses despite having been under Australian state security monitoring for at least 6 years. And isn't it weird how you always have elements of that in these strange stories that are very convenient for the Zionist agenda? Very strange. How did they get guns? It's not, you can't just, that ain't America, man. They have very strict gun laws there. They basically outlawed guns in private hands. I don't know, man, over 20 years ago now, I think. Anti-Semitism is the fuel for Zionism and the ultimate justification for an ethno-supremacist Jewish state. With their naked exploitation of the Bondi shooting, they demonstrate once again that they're more interested in advancing Israel's genocidal imperatives than in protecting Jews. Yes, I spoke, after, calmed down a little bit. Obviously, she was a little rattled. I spoke to my wife about this, and we've been saying this since October 7th. I never felt unsafe as a Jew before. And, she agreed with me. She never felt that way before. We both feel that way now. Yeah, Israel is the best thing to happen to anti-Semitism since the Inquisition. Like, it's inevitable. I mean, and quite intentional that you're going to get mixed up with things like this that we don't know. There are a lot of things to indicate that you're looking at an op here, that you're looking at an operation. We don't know that. It certainly could have been something that these two men took upon themselves to do. Yeah, when people are watching a state claiming that it is what Judaism stands for and keeping it real, you got, at least in this country and probably in Australia too, 80% of Jews allowing and reinforcing that connection, and then people watch that state commit a genocide. Yeah, you're going to get anti-Semitic backlash because you have emphatically told people being Jewish and being Israeli is the same thing.
Right.
That's your state, that you see that as your state. So when they see that state committing a genocide with unique impunity around the world, with unique support from Western powers, yeah, you go and you have, and of course, nothing justifies this. I'm certainly not saying that. My own wife was there. It could have been killed. I'm not saying that justifies it. I'm saying it's inevitable when you generate that kind of violence and you connect what should be a religious belief to a state institution committing a genocide, well, then they think that religion is for genocide, and they come after innocent people on a beach celebrating a holiday. This is why I think Jews like me and Keaton, like Max, like Aaron, like Rabbi Weiss, for that matter, are so intent on separating those things. I posted the other day, I walked by Temple Shirath, Israel, is on 70th and Central Park West. It's the descendant congregation of the first Jews, I think, in America, actually, definitely the first Jews in New Amsterdam, 1654. They have an Israeli flag flying over the door. So, I mean, at that point, you're telling people to be a Jew is to be pro-Israel. Yeah, and it's a terrible disservice to religious Jews who might want to worship there, that you're forcing them to endorse the Israeli state if they want to go to your synagogue.
Right.
So George Galloway, speaking of things to make you go, you see, this just makes no sense unless, and he's quoting, Google traffic data shows Bondi terror suspect's name searched numerous times in Tel Aviv 1 day before attack. I was watching a James Lee video where I think they also searched him a few days before. On the 10th, there was a spike in searches for this name, very much like what we saw with Charlie Kirk's assassination. So let's not forget, this is, sometimes these people tell on themselves in their arrogance. A Mossad agent went on 60 Minutes to take a victory lap about the beepers. And he was being asked, well, how did you do that? And he explains the level of intricate webs that the Mossad has to hide behind.
Have an incredible array of possibilities of creating foreign companies that have no way being traced back to Israel, shell companies over shell companies who affect the supply chain to our favor. We create a pretend world. We are a global production company. We write the screenplay. We're the directors. We're the producers. We're the main actors. The world is our stage.
Well, so I think when you've got an actual Mossad agent who goes on 60 Minutes and says that, I don't think you can really call it anti-Semitic when people start saying, well, was this a setup in order to use it as leverage against a West that is increasingly questioning the alliance of their countries with Israel? Now let's talk a little bit about how the media treats worthy and unworthy victims, as Noam Chomsky, in between trips to Epstein Island, might have called them in happier times. So Rabbi Eli Schlanger, the Chabad emissary in Bondi, who had organized a commemoration for the victims of the Mumbai attacks, was among those killed in the Bondi attack, drawing a painful line between past, present anti-Semitic violence. There have been a lot of videos of this rabbi, just very jolly, presented in a very saintly way. And this goes to what I'm talking about. When you have a religion that has tied itself so much to a criminal state, even in a tragic event like this, you're going to have a lot of people who have been complicit in war crimes and genocide. There were a lot of IDF in the crowd. Some of the dead had served in the IDF. This is from Chabad. This is how they describe him. Eli was the assistant rabbi at Chabad of Bondi and a key organizer of the event. For 18 years since his marriage to wife Chea, he has served as a rabbi and chaplain in the Bondi community. He was among 11 murdered, now it's 15, by terrorists at the Hanukkah party. He recently said, in the face of darkness, the way forward is to be more Jewish, act more Jewish, and appear more Jewish. Okay. All right. So let's see what that meant to him, actually. Among those killed in the Bondi Beach attack, he misspelled it here, but Rabbi Eli Schlanger, a Chabad emissary sent to lead Jewish holiday celebrations in Australia. The head of the Jewish community was seriously injured. Well, he's passed now. Schlanger had visited Israel during the genocide to support the Israeli army. He raised funds for the military and publicly advocated for settlement expansion. On Israel's Channel 14, he once said, "Can you imagine if this settlement in the West Bank were in Arab hands? That is why it needs to be in the hands of the Jewish people for security reasons. And of course, because it belongs to us, because it is our land." Chabad as an organization has supported Israeli military operations and settlement activity in the occupied territories. Let's see some video of him there.
And a special thank you.
Strangely, these are not the videos they're showing in the media.
Friends, ladies and gentlemen, I am here at the Marpeset Shel Hamedina, which means the porch of the country. It's an unbelievable place. It's a very, very high peak, and from here you can see half the country. Unbelievable place. Can you imagine if this was in the hands of the Arabs? This is right in the heart of the West Bank. This is why this needs to be in the hands of the Jewish people, because of its security, and obviously the obvious, because it belongs to us, because it's our land. I'm standing over here with a beautiful, beautiful Chayal, a soldier, a man who has left his family to be able to protect this village at this very, very heightened moment. What's your name?
And my name is Dolev.
Dolev. And Dolev, on behalf of the entire village over here, has received a very, very sizable donation from our community in Sydney, and he has a couple of words to say.
Okay, so first of all, hi from Israel. So, hi from Israel to the beautiful community of Sydney. As a representative of the reserve group, that we station here in Pdua, I want to thank you for your donation. We still need a lot of equipment like shoes, new vests.
Can I show your shoes?
Yeah, I'm still not wearing proper army shoes.
You understand? He's in the army and he's wearing regular sneakers. Shouldn't work like that.
So
we're being called.
Now, it's not right.
There you go.
It's not right.
Okay, we're leaving.
It's not right to hold everybody up. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we're coming. We're coming.
Okay, we're walking.
So
look what a merry time it is. Stealing Palestinian land. It's such a lighthearted romp they're having there on stolen land. Imagine Arabs had this land, the people the land belongs to. Wouldn't that be horrible? But it gets better. Here's the rabbi from Bondi Beach who is being turned into a holy saint martyr by the Western media and political class, mocking a Palestinian woman who was starving to death just a few months ago, saying she was AI. You can see here, there he is, calling this AI. "I haven't eaten in 5 days. I just want food. I walk a little and feel dizzy. My stomach is empty." He responds, AI. Here's some more bangers from him. The rabbi who was brutally murdered on Bondi did not want peace for the Arabs in the Middle East. He openly called for their genocide. And here he is responding to multiple people, including Jackson Hinkle, Amalek, Amalek, Amalek. And of course, that you want to talk about genocidal language. That is literally genocidal language. In the Old Testament, Amalek are the people that they are commanded to wipe out down to the last child, right? So what is that if not genocidal? And here he is, hanging out, guns, bombs. He's a peacenik, this guy, peace lover. And as far as Chabad itself goes, in a Q&A on its website, Chabad, the Jewish group which organized the Bondi Beach event, argued that every child in Gaza killed by Israel is a human shield. Their deaths are tragic inevitabilities. So the question, how can Israel justify killing civilians if their intent is to crush Hamas? And the answer here from Chabad, the death of innocents is a tragic inevitability of war. Our hearts go out to all those caught in the middle. The sad fact is that the Palestinian people are being held hostage by Hamas, just as it is clear that Hamas is morally culpable for any harm done to Gilad Shalit, the Israeli hostage that they hold, so too are they culpable for the fate of Palestinian innocents amongst whom they hide. A civilian who is killed while being used by a terrorist as a human shield is a victim of the terrorist, not the Israeli army, who does not target innocent civilians. So, this is basically an argument against the whole concept of war crimes, right? Like you could do anything under this pretext. They were in the way. We weren't trying to get them. We were trying to get the enemy. They were in the way. Blame the enemy. Blame the enemy. We're not responsible for that. Satsabad, which, by the way, has set up 6 centers around Thailand that are no-go zones for the local police, according to reporting. Nate Baer, if international law existed, the Chabad of Bondi, a group which raised funds to provide material support for a genocide, wouldn't have been able to organize a party on the beach, and that rabbi wouldn't be dead. He would be in The Hague. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I'll give you a good example here. Have you ever seen the Western media respond to Palestinian victims who are far more numerous, as tragic as, and again, we don't in any way justify or condone what happened on Bondi Beach, but nor do we justify or condone Palestinians being killed on their own beach, off their own waters, which, by the way, before October 7th, they were not allowed to fish for their own sustenance without risking getting blown out of the water. This is from Adam. When the Bondi Beach attack happened on Gaza Beach, no one cared. There's a girl who just lost her father on that beach. Israel has a long history of targeting children and innocent civilians in Gaza and the rest of Palestine. The Israeli Navy shelled the beach. She was the only survivor. My dad has been martyred. Blow that up. And Waleed, my brother, has been martyred. None of my family is alive except my brother. And, just to be clear, Mehdi Hassan put this out. Let me state the obvious. Anti-Semitism is always wrong. Islamophobia is always wrong. Intentionally killing civilians is always wrong, whether on a beach in Sydney or a beach in Gaza. Can we not all agree on all of the above? Is that really so hard? Absolutely. Absolutely. But, I'm not going to talk about these subjects and what's been done to the Palestinian people by the state of Israel and not talk about the way that the media treats Jewish victims versus the way they treat Palestinian victims as an inconvenience, as an afterthought, as somehow deserving of their fate, or it's complicated. Where's the complicated here? Where's the complicated? Where are all the articles? Man killed was IDF soldier complicit in massacre. Man killed raised funds for soldiers complicit in genocide. I don't see any of that. It's complicated. It's complex. And that literally happened. Some of these victims were also victimizers, directly or indirectly, of the Palestinian people. That is not the way it's going to be presented or framed. You're never going to see a corporate media story covering the actual history of that rabbi. They grabbed him right away and made him out to be like a jolly Jewish Santa Claus, this saintly man of peace. And he was a supporter of genocide and illegal settlement. That's the reality. They don't want you to talk about that. They don't want you to acknowledge that. And they really want to create an environment where it's verboten. It's verboten to talk about that. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You cannot go and commit a genocide against a people without blowback. And the people on that beach, that should not have happened. It's not, that doesn't accomplish anything. That kind of violence only begets more violence. But that violence is an example of that principle. Does anyone really believe this would have happened without 2 years of a live streamed genocide? It could have. I mean, it's not like you've never had anti-Semitism, obviously, in history without anything like that going on. I think we can pretty safely say that a lot where you are seeing anti-Semitic incidents, a lot of it is driven by that. And then, of course, the question you're really not supposed to ask, why were they searching this guy's name a few days before? We've seen multiple credible sources claiming this. And why on earth would we allow a foreign nation, as the poster said, to insert their intelligence agency, especially an intelligence agency which went on 60 Minutes and said, we lie. We treat the world as a stage, and very conveniently and very irrationally decide they're going to blame the country that they most want to get their big brother, the U.S., to come and start bombing again.
Yeah, I mean, I would say we could start really even more basic than that. Where are the Palestinian victims on mainstream media at all? Where are the victims
At
of
all.
the genocide at
Right.
all? That's
Right.
why when people like Hillary Clinton and Sarah Hurwitz say, well, the problem is TikTok, that's because that's the only place you see Palestinian victims is on
Right.
TikTok. You don't see them
Right.
on TV. You don't
Right.
see them reported on in print, except when the Free Press wants to point out that the kids who were starving had pre-existing conditions, and so it's not really Israel's fault
Right.
for
Right.
starving them. Was this blowback? I'm not even sure if it was ISIS inspired. That's the thing. I wouldn't even concede that point that this had anything to do with Palestine at all, because ISIS is at odds with the Palestinian struggle in a lot of different ways. They're both broadly speaking anti-Israel, but this is a topic for a different time. That's about where their similarities end. ISIS believes in a global caliphate. They don't even believe in borders, right? So the idea of a
Right.
political struggle for a certain plot of
So
land is
they're
not
like
something-
Democrats.
Yeah, right. They're open borders Democrats. Yeah, exactly. They believe in a global caliphate. So the struggle for a specific plot of land is not something that necessarily aligns with their worldview. Again, talk for a different time. But yeah, I mean, look, obviously the erasure of Palestinian victims and the elevation of Jewish victims is an imbalance that's not even hidden in plain sight. It's not hidden at all. And the cycle of violence is it's absolutely horrible. It's absolutely horrible. I mean, society can't function this way, but there is no society in Gaza anymore because of the violence that's been perpetrated against the Palestinians. Like I said, to compare them in this case, I mean, to even put the incidents side by side, I fear is to concede that this had anything to do with the Palestine cause at all, which has not been established yet.
Yeah, fair
You
enough.
have people like Brett Stevens spilling ink about how this has globalized the Intifada based on nothing but just anti-Arab racism, which is at the heart of it, of course.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, what Mehdi Hassan said that there is, it's about it. It should be as simple as that. It should be as simple as that, but it's not. All right, we got to get through these chats pretty quick.
Oh yeah, you got to get out of here.
Yeah. Ardeen W. Fun fact: in most states like mine, Utah cannot use your HSA funds for legalized medical marijuana. Thank you, Ardeen W. Vienticus Prime. Just remember how stupid the average person is, then realize that's how stupid the average rich person is. Thank you. Like Carlin. Then remember half the people are dumber than that, right? 007. These ghouls will tell us next, forget about learning to code and become a doctor so you can operate on yourself. They are poking the bear. 1776 started over a stupid tea tax. Thank you, 007. Vienticus, radical perversion of Islam as promoted by the nation state of a radical perversion of Judaism is indeed a problem. Fix it. Thank you. Vienticus, by the way, I will never not know the place as Rothschild's Amalek nation of Israel. Would it be bad if someone wished Benjamin not so really Netanyahu fatally stubbed his toe on the front passenger side tire of a Pinto? Ford Pinto is painted that brownish color, by the way. This needs to be specific because reasons. China Shill, Bedbug, Brett Stevens. Thank you, China Shill. Vienticus, of course, you got people wanting to go deeper into criminals, always obey laws everywhere. That's how you know where the criminals legislation, I mean gun control. Oops, sorry, got that one already. Are you really buying the hero was a Muslim? BB hired a lip reader and released it. Hey, it's my turn. You've had the gun for 10 minutes, dude. Eric Rousseau, Norm Chomsky, manufacturing underage consent. Thank you. All right, go ahead.
All right, Andy Gardner, been saving up for an expensive but necessary procedure. It's state of the art, called the assisted unaliving pod. cheaper with the catastrophic plan. Yeah, that's about all that's going to be left. It's going to be like Soylent Green down here.
Yeah.
Julie Desnick, Dorr called it tinkle down economics. That sounds like Jimmy. Sparky, Chinese Trump is the best ever at imitating Trump. Better than me? Are you sure about that? Kuznetsky Bassane, 15-fold increase in HC premiums plus radical increase in deductibles. Time for Rev a frickin' Lucian. You think so? I think so. That's why they're keeping us fat and stupid. Dark Matter Zombies. When Palestine is free, we will all be free. Much love to all community and solidarity. You want to find the sound drop?
Thank you. Let me do the chats. You find the sound drop because it'll kick me out of the thing again.
Oh,
Thank you, Landrew. Appreciate that very much. Coked up in a bathroom. Thank you, Daria Creets. On behalf of all Australians, says Andy Gardner, we thank you as the Prime Minister then gifted the hero with a 6-pound bat-eating spider. Yeah, exactly. Enjoy this.
Landrew is dead.
Thank you, Andrew. Miss Rachel is a saint. Free Palestine. F Israel. And as Senator 04, Barry Weiss is my least favorite Barry Weiss. She's behind Barry Weiss beer from Leinenkugels and Barry Weiss, the old man from Storage Wars. Thank you very much. All right, everybody. That is our show. Appreciate you all being here. Please smash that like button on the way out, that subscribe button on YouTube, the follow button, over on Rumble. We will see you all back here Thursday, noon Eastern. Until then, thanks everybody for spending the afternoon with us. Thanks to the mods for keeping the peace in the chat. And until Thursday, be safe and be well.
Courage!
Please clap.